once said we'd meet again in a better future. But now we fight for different beliefs. When despair came for me, it was Havoc that gave me hope. And when you raised your gun at me, did you forget what we once had? From now on, I will no longer hesitate. My blade will carry out my conviction.
"2035. Leveraging its technological and financial prowess, Havoc has started expanding their presence. Akit, owing to its strategic location, is their primary target. Havoc has already established close cooperation with Akit, providing investment and new technologies to intervene in domestic affairs, all while promising to protect and revitalize the nation. GTI remains vigilant. They suspect Havoc is stealing sensitive data and looting cultural artifacts to fund military operations. Having obtained crucial evidence of Havoc's misdeeds, GTI has taken military action.
There's a few rules to follow in this trade. Planning, focus, efficiency, secrecy, discretion, restraint. One mistake, and you're dead. The secret to my survival lies in one simple tenet. I don't follow shit. Hell yeah. Staying alive. That's all that matters.
Reliable intel confirms the Asara Guard is plotting attacks on multiple Havoc facilities. Saeed has planted explosives, aiming to cripple the dam's power grid and prevent Havoc from rebuilding Skynet.
Requesting backup. The pipes have been compromised. Water spreading. If the dam goes down, all areas downstream will be flooded.
All units proceed to the dam immediately. Locate and disarm the explosives.
going?
I'm using a gradient descent algorithm to figure out the most energy-efficient way to get this done.
Ah? What?
Getting there. Come on, we've got plenty more to do.
Rashid Rahal, codename Gizmo. Role, engineer. Gizmo, a native operator from Asara. He's highly skilled in mechanical technology, specializing in the design and application of engineering devices and tactical tools. He once served as a technical specialist in the Royal Asaran Defense Force, where he gained extensive combat experience. As an operator, Gizmo utilizes mechanical creations for surveillance and tracking. He can deploy smoke mines, which can be remotely triggered, and use sentry bots to mark, damage, and slow enemies within range. Gizmo's tactical equipment is Tenacious Interception Module. The spider-shaped bot, codenamed Ted, patrols a designated path once deployed. Upon detecting enemies, it enters tracking mode, and once in range, deploys a net that limits their movement and firing.
Mission complete. Preparing to extract. We will end this war someday. This land will no longer be stained with the blood of the people.
Well, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome into the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare North American Finals. We have finally made it, folks, after some rigorous competition, in-game qualifiers, into our semifinals last weekend. We are back for another show. North American Finals are here, and I am so excited to be back. I'm going to be your host and caster today, Goj, and I got to bring in my co-caster for this weekend. We've got Vivid back in the booth, as per the usual, my friend. It's good to have you back. You excited about the NA finals?
Definitely excited. Of course, we had those EU finals earlier today as well. A couple of hours later, I got some shrimp scampi up in me. I'm feeling energized, ready to get back into things. And listen, guys, we talked about it earlier. NA, we had them last weekend compete in their semifinals, right? And I love that, right? Because we've got the storylines kind of leading into today, and I'm very excited to see the teams go head to head today.
Yeah, a lot to talk about, so let's talk a little bit about that format first and foremost, folks. Let's break it all down, because like I said, there were in-game qualifiers into the semifinals. Into today, there was a total of 4 teams that made it to the semifinals: the Avengers Legacy, the Division, and Squirtle Squad, but only 2 won their semifinals. That's the Avengers and the Squirtle Squad. Those are going to be our 2 teams today. Now, our format is the exact same as the semifinals. We are playing a single best of 3. If you watched our European finals, it's going to be the exact same format. We're going to pick a map out of our random maps. It's going to be randomized. Once you get that map chosen, you're going to attack on it and you're going to defend on it. Once you're done with that, if it's tied up, we are going to game 3, and there's a bunch of rules to determine who gets to pick map, who gets to pick the side, etc., which we'll break down if we get there. In the semifinals, we got there in one of our semifinal games, and it was a lot of fun to see the decision making behind how we play game 3. But in Europe, it was a quick 2-0, so we could be here for a while, or we could be here just for 2 maps in total, which is only 1 single map but 2 rounds. That's how it's going to work. Now let's talk a little bit about the prizing, of course, because we do have a total of 4 teams, which means we are going to reward all of the teams just for making it to the semifinals. But we already know who got 3rd or 4th place. Those are the teams that lost in the semifinals. So Vivid, talk to me about the prizing for today.
Yeah, obviously a lot on the line right here, pretty much doubling up the amount of money you are going to earn. First place, taking home that $6,000. Second place, taking home $3,000. But of course, Goj, we like to kind of play favorites around here. We like to see the action. We like to see those, that are support players, everything like that. So we're going to go ahead and reward those that are the best at slaying out the top slayer, $500. And then, of course, the top medic as well, getting $500. And those 2 roles are very important in winning some of these games.
Super important. A lot of money on the line, folks. Let's take a look at the bracket overall. Like I've described, 4 teams. Pretty simple. We've made it to the grand finals. Avengers versus the Squirtle Squad. We are here. And as a reminder about semifinals A and B last weekend, Squirtle Squad, they got crushed in the very first round, and then all of a sudden, they go back-to-back and win it in Game 3. A little bit of a reverse sweep there in semifinals A, and then in semifinals B, the Avengers stomp a quick 2-0. So a lot of fun in the semifinals, but the grand finals are here, and these teams are ready to play with a little bit more chemistry under their belt. Let's take a look at our team rosters. And Vivid, talk to me about a couple standout performers from each of these two sides, the Avengers or the Squirtle Squad.
Well, of course, listen, I like to talk about the names, right? Avengers versus Squirtle Squad. That's going to be awesome to kind of say throughout the day. The Squirtle Squad is where I've got my eyes peeled. The bottom left, we talked about them a ton last weekend. The Syndicate is going to be the squad of 4. And of course, we have our commander down there as well. But one of the players that we saw have a ton of impact last weekend was, of course, Mr. Wormy. Definitely keep your eyes peeled for any of the vehicles that he may jump into, because he is very, very good at controlling the points whenever they need it, whenever he's in a vehicle.
Yeah, I really like that shout out. They've got a lot of fans in the chat, and frankly, for good reason. The Syndicate, absolutely a standout team. But we had some pretty big standout performances from just about everybody out here. It was a team effort across the board. I'm excited to see which side will end up taking this. I really like the Eternals Gaming squad down there with Titan. But let's take a look at what actually happened in some of those games. And as we take a look back on the semifinals, Vivid, it was non-stop action. Here's a quick look at the Squirtle Squad side of things. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom on screen with the Syndicate. Listen, man, this didn't go well. We started off, and it was a brutal beginning for the Squirtle Squad.
Yeah, I mean, just, defended from capping A in game number 1. So very, very quick right there. And we were like, oh, okay, well, this might be very, very fast. But Squirtle Squad, of course, bringing it back on Cracked. We did play Cracked last weekend for those first 2 games, because they went 1-1. That third match was actually decided by Trenched, which, I remember calling out. I was like, man, I do not like playing Trenched. And funny enough, right, that tiebreaker, the division, the team that, ended up losing to Squirtle Squad, they actually decided to pick Trenched instead of picking the defensive side, which, me and Gojo are like, hey, listen, I feel like defense is a little bit more favored. Why would you not pick defense? But they picked Trenched, and Squirtle Squad was probably happy about that, because of course, as we know, they went on to defend that D sector, and they did such a good job staying in it, right, mentally, losing that first game so fast, and then doing that reverse sweep at the end of things. Shout out to Squirtle Squad. I'm excited to see if they kind of can perform same way today.
Yeah, it literally couldn't have been any closer going into game 3. The attackers pushed, the division pushed all the way to the finish line. The attackers pushed all the way to the finish line, get to the D points, but couldn't push past the Squirtle Squad on trench lines. Insane stuff from them. And here's a quick look at some quick stats from the day. Now, this was through 3 total maps, in total 3 total rounds. So average score, pretty solid numbers across the board. I will say these numbers are going to probably be pretty low in comparison to what they could put up today, because of that very first round on Cracked. They got held at point A. It was brutal. We thought we were going to be done with the entire competition in 30 minutes because they looked so bad, but then everything turned on its head, and they were still able to clutch up. So hopefully a little more chemistry this time around. These numbers will be a bit higher, but let's take a look back at what happened during semifinals 2. And this was an interesting one, because the Avengers versus Legacy was a totally different story, and frankly, a totally different map. We went to Cyclone, which means we got to see land, sea, air, and everything in between on a much bigger map. And it was a similar story with some easy holds, but overall, it was the Avengers living up to their namesake here, Vivid. They crushed it.
Yeah, I mean, the Avengers held down on the defense pretty easily, right? Of course, they did lose A, and as we know on Cyclone, that one's usually almost a guarantee. Got to the B, they ended up defending it right there. And then throughout their attack side, when they went ahead and switched sides, for me, it was kind of all about the vehicle management. I remember at one point they had like 2 tanks up in the jet, but they were inside of that Cyclone map, and they were kind of failing to actually make any progress inside. And then, finally ditching those tanks to get some more boots on the ground in terms of actually capturing those points. And then when they got to that last point, because that jet kind of stayed outside, not necessarily finding value while the point was inside for that D sector. When they got to the E sector, the jet made all of the difference. And even still, it was very, very close, right? They had very minimum tickets left towards the end of things, but they ended up pulling out the attack win, which is just incredible.
Yeah, the attack win on Cyclone was wild. We had some naysayers in the chat. I'll tell you what. They said, attack on Cyclone, good luck. You're never going to win. Well, they were able to do it, and look how many lives were remaining as well. Talk about a nail-biter there at the end. Here's a quick look at the average stats. Like I said, a lot higher than their competition. Coming in as probably the top team on paper, the Avengers, here to prove that the semifinals was not a fluke. Average score at over 100,000 more than the Squirtle Squad, who they're about to play against. Average kills way higher, average revives higher. Everything looking really, really strong for the Avengers, and obviously a lot longer of attack time as well, because they made it all the way to the finish line rather than getting held near the beginning. So the Avengers have yet to lose a round. And as we're taking a look at our breakdown, we got to see what map we're playing today. Oh, baby. We are headed to Trainwreck. Now, Vivid, I like this map a lot, and I got to ask your opinion on it. Obviously, a much bigger map than what we saw earlier today. This will go all the way to Point E. Any hot takes or any thoughts on this one?
Trainwreck for me, it's like a love-hate relationship, right? Because it's like, you know, if the match is going well and you can start vibing, right, and you get to some of the good spots on the map, okay, it's going good. But if you're just getting stomped, Trainwreck can feel very, very hard to kind of make any progress. And I like the fact that you kind of shout out that this map does go all the way to E, because E is actually one of my favorite points in this map. Those underground tunnels, not a lot of people kind of know about. I love kind of being on the attack, going through those tunnels, kind of coming up behind the enemy team with that staircase that's on the backside over there. But obviously, to get to E, there are a ton more sectors that these teams are going to have to go through. This one is going to be a marathon.
Yeah, it's going to be a marathon, and I think the thing to remind people at home is, yes, we did do a commander voted pick. All of the squad captains were put into a Discord. They voted on who they thought the commanders would be, and the commanders then drafted the squads. Those squads then play together as an entire team. They named themselves the Avengers and the Squirtle Squad, and as we hop into the gameplay, both these teams have won thus far. The Avengers coming in as the attackers in the very first round. Throughout the course of this first map, folks, if you see red, that's the Avengers. If you see green, that's your defense. That is going to be the Squirtle Squad all the way through from our esports observers. Now, point A and even point B, I don't think are really all that difficult, but as we always say, Vivid, it is all about how many lives does it take, and when you go into the next point with the maximum amount.
Can I just instantly note, like, the cohesion from the Avengers right here? It's very, very easy to kind of fall into the trap on this first sector, where you kind of just run in and you kind of filter into that right side. In fact, like, pretty much in all the matches I play, that's kind of where everybody goes. But this, it looks like every single one of the attackers from the Avengers is actually on the left side of this point right now, which is awesome, because one of the main defending buildings on this point A is actually on that right side over there. And you'll see it when we kind of look off into the distance, how many defenders are up on top of that concrete slab up there. This is actually the one that I'm talking about right here. But because they're going all the way over to the left side of it, they can't contest it. But then these defenders aren't necessarily getting as much value out of this very good stronghold position. So I really like the chemistry that is being shown here early from the Avengers.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, too. Trainwreck's an interesting one because it's vehicles galore. There's a lot of vehicles. You even start with one. So you can see our attackers not trying to get their tank too active right now. It would be an utter disaster to lose their tank at point A when they basically don't need it. So it's going to sit back and shell the point, kind of as per the usual, similar to what you see in something like trench lines. Pretty similar map in terms of progression, so we'll watch out for that. But of course, if the defense is smart, maybe they make a play on this tank early. And it looks like they're taking some shots, but there's certainly going to be a full squad of engineers just sitting on this tank, and at least two.
And you can kind of see why that concrete building over there is so strong, right? The head glitches to actually get up top there. I believe it's a ladder and maybe a mantle as well if you are kind of good with movement. So you can't really go ahead and take a gunfight against anybody up there because you're just going to be at a disadvantage as soon as you try to get up there. But that being said, that building's not going to play a part when it comes down to actually getting men onto the point right now. The Avengers are slowly taking A, of course, with the help of the tank that is surprisingly close to the point. Usually on Trainwreck, on that first point, the tank usually plays back on those hills, so that way it cannot be hit by missiles. But getting involved is helping the attack so much.
Yeah, as long as they don't lose it, I think it's the right play. A lot of magnetic bombs, a lot of Virons out there, so watch out. Those things do quite a bit of damage. And it looks like it's kind of pushing forward, taking a bit of damage, and then backing off over this kind of berm, allowing the engineers to still keep up some heals on it. It's a pretty smart play here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and shout something out. It's something I'm going to be watching out for, especially on the attack for the Squirtle Squad. I've been paying attention, as I always do, to all of the teams and their Discord comms. The Squirtle Squad, as an entire team of 20, have been in Discord for hours leading up to this event, and I'm not joking. I think I had 150 messages in their team chat. I had graphs, I had maps built out with drawn arrows, I had every squad designated to a specific role. I'm telling you, it's insane. We'll see if that prep pays off for the defensive squad, as they do lose point A fairly quickly.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of keep an eye peeled over towards the Squirtle Squad and kind of see if we can see any of the chemistry that, you know, so far has been blaringly obvious out of the Avengers. I do believe the tank had like 3 engineers dedicated to keeping it healthy. So that is a big investment in terms of keeping those 3 roles kind of back there to make sure that tank does stay alive. But on to the B sector right now. It's all about this first hill right here. I remember every single time this is where all of the battles kind of take place, and you know, with that being said, I'm taking a peek off into the distance. It doesn't look like the Squirrel Squad is actually interested in running up on this hill, and as I say that, Mr. Wormy
getting involved. Tank Destroyer is active. He's got to keep it alive though, because the attackers also have one. Wormy up into trouble is going to back off. Tank and Tank Destroyer on the side of the attackers is a huge advantage for the attack to break into point B. Wormy really needs to prioritize staying alive, and I think he was able to do that. Yes, he's able to get out for now, but getting chased by several vehicles. One, just an armored transport, but even still, seeing nice value from Wormy, and great job staying alive.
I think the Avengers have gotten just way too far up towards this point already on. Like, usually, like I said, that hill is usually like a defensive hold point, and then you kind of work your way back, but it seems like the defense kind of set up on the bridge. But look at this, the flood can just come in so easily because they didn't get stopped at all. I mean, they have 172 tickets. It's like the B sector just started and they're already on the point. So this defensive position that, you know, kind of seemed like it was on purpose, to me, it doesn't look like it's working out. But, you know, that being said, the attack onto the actual point is being held off. But again, there's been so much space gained by the attacking side.
And again, truthfully, I haven't seen a lot of teams hold on AB. It usually comes down to some of the double capture points later in this map, but still, any value you can get here is a good value. But it's looking like you're right. The attackers have set up a pretty nice position here. Obviously, we'll pay attention to respawn beacons as we see them. It's a pretty important piece to the puzzle. You can see some anti-tank mines set out by likely the defense as well. As the attacker is going to try to take a bit of high ground, maybe with the tank here. So maybe a dangerous play, depending on this tank destroyer. Could see some nice value. We lose the tank here. This is going to be a huge boon. We're going to see at least half the health bar go down, and the engineers pop out, and we lose one of them.
I saw actually Mr. Wormy's engineers, 2 of them popped out of that tank destroyer, and they went down instantly. So shout out to the tank for kind of prioritizing them right now. Mr. Wormy's tank destroyer is going to be very, very low. He'll lure a rocket. I don't think it's going to connect. He's still in it. I don't know how he's still in it. It looks like it would have made contact at some point right there, but still going to be alive. And, you know, Goj, we got to keep our eyes peeled towards the top of the screen. That telltale sign that B is getting captured right now.
Yeah, we got a lot of bodies on the low side here. The tank was trying to pry with the high side, give them some motion down below, and it was able to do just that. Wormy having to back off, now going in full health, throwing down as many bullets as he can. He's able to pick up a couple, but I don't think he's clearing out this whole point. Did get some pretty good value, though. Holy cow! Wormy's on a tear right now, and Zin's here now with the tank destroyer as well. I think he might be in there with him, and down goes the tank!
What is this? This is like a last-second ditch effort where Mr. Wormy just invests that tank destroyer onto the point. I feel like that's very Mr. Wormy-esque. We've seen that so many times from him just over the course of last weekend's match. And that being said, his efforts and his teams are going to be thwarted, even though it looked amazing for a second right there. But at the end of it, B is going to be, you know, captured. And I was kind of keeping my eyes peeled towards a ticket right there to see if they did do enough damage. It does not look like they did, because they are at 180 after the replenishment. Now goes to the point that you were making earlier on. We're on to that double point sector now for the first time on this map.
Yeah, a really good shot. Wormy put up crazy value. Unfortunately, by the way, I saw a couple of AT4s come through, and Wormy did get cut down in his last tank destroyer, albeit Obviously, we've got more vehicles coming in for the defense, and that was a ton of score racked up. Could see another vehicle called in for the defense pretty soon. Like I said, Trainwreck's got a lot of vehicles on it, and already the attack's got a couple tank destroyers of their own. And the defense, I think, just with an IFV. Double check what that is here in a moment, but right now, already the attack pushing over to C1 first. And a bit of panic, but a kill nonetheless.
A dang metal pole was eating some of those bullets right there. The C sector is kind of interesting because it's kind of like that 3-lane kind of, you know, sector where you can go up left, up in the mountains over there, kind of attack from the side. Obviously, the middle is very, very important because it holds the rotate between the 2 points. And then off to the right, if you are on the attacking side as well, is actually typically where I see a lot of the vehicle warfare kind of happen, kind of protecting that flank over there towards C2. As you can see off in the distance, a lot of attackers are going to be utilizing that right lane over there. And interesting enough, it looks like there's not a lot of attackers on C1 right now, but it is being captured.
Yeah, this might be a mistake. Only a couple bodies on the point. Everybody else, though, spawning in and moving towards the point. So here's the first push. It looks like a full squad moving in tandem up on the high side of C1, trying to play spoiler to this push. This could be a huge benefit if they're able to get a lot of value out of this squad. Down below, though, Psychoactive is putting up pretty solid numbers. No, getting cut down. The defense might just hold this on the back of that single squad. Well played, and a little bit of backup here. They're going to be moving into C1, but at the same time, classic tug of war, the attack swings back over to C2, and all of a sudden, both points in jeopardy.
One of our favorites from last weekend as well was that MP7 hipfire build, right? So good to see the return there of that. But yes, C1 looking like they are going to reclaim that, but because they had to bring so many squads over here, C2 is actually going to fall. So shout out to the Avengers for kind of getting that investment out from the defenders to go ahead and push over there. So that way C2 would be, of course, weakened. And with that being said, look at this. The middle of the map is very open. That rotate that I was talking about, because they just captured C2 as almost an entire team, they all could potentially rotate over to C1 very, very quickly and make quick work of C.
I'm going to be honest, this is looking like the exact same Avengers we saw in the semifinals. Nearly inevitable at this point. They are flying through these points as the attack. And on a map of this size and scale, when you have to go through this many sectors, you need maximum lives for every single sector, which means you essentially only have around 60 to spend in terms of making sure that you have enough for the next point and the next point and the next point if you're not near perfect. Now, here's a quick look at another vehicle warfare piece of the puzzle, looking like the defense finally able to get some action there. I want to say that's Wormy back in the tank destroyer yet again, seeing some nice value.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Wormy, every single time we talk about him, we see him on the big screen here, he just finds so much value, right? It's always the same vehicle every single time, that tank destroyer. He's so good at, you know, kind of staying back, making sure that he does apply enough damage to a vehicle, and then just sends it into enemy lines as soon as he feels like he can actually go ahead and take out the vehicle on the opposing side. It's very, very good, and it seemingly is the only thing that is kind of working for Squirtle Squad right now.
Yeah, and what they're doing is they're sitting at least one other person inside the tank destroyer as well that is a part of that squad. So it's either going to be Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, Zinseer, Randy Savage. You'll see that player pop on the kill feed as well inside the tank destroyer. You see, there's Randy right now in the kill feed, just as I spoke of it. Working with Wormy here to play together, and here's a little back and forth. See who gets the better of their opponents. Is it going to be the tank destroyer with some engineers? Has a lot of firepower. Well played from the attack to back off, though, to stay alive over the side of the berm as the engineers go to heal.
I did see that actually. It's going to be Chicka Boom Boom and Randy Savage that were in that tank destroyer right there as he tries to make a push by himself to see if he can go ahead and take it out. Maybe he thought that there was a little bit more damage dealt to it, but no, not going to be able to do that. So he's going to be able to respawn and hopefully get back with Mr. Wormy to kind of have that engineer available to help maintain that vehicle's health. And I do actually, there is an urgent deployment that is active right now.
Yeah, I wish I knew which team called it in. If I can get a read on it, I'll let you guys know. Or if obviously if chat, you know, maybe from a stream POV of one of our players, let us know. I want to wager that this is going to be coming in from the defense. I think so, mostly on the back of that squad is putting up crazy amount of score, and I believe Zinsier went back to being the commander for this team, and therefore will be earning some extra points as the commander, being able to call these things in. So there's a chance they were able to do that. However, looking at the map state, maybe it was the attack, because all of a sudden they have found great value on both points. C1 now being capped, C2, yes, in jeopardy, but it's not actually moving from complete control by the attack. We could be seeing the next objective point here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the defenders just kind of got pushed off of C1 entirely, right? All but 5 people are remaining there over on the point. And as you can see right there, because they lost all of that space, all of the defenders are having to run over the mountain to see if they can make it to C1 in time. And it does look like the 5 that were on C1, they must have done some miracle work over there, because somehow they have thwarted the attack. But it's going to be all about the rotation now. Can they actually get back? And oh my gosh, a 5-piece, a 4-piece in the kill feed from Asta with what I believe was an anti-tank mine.
Unreal. The lone squad rolled into C1 and made a huge difference. They spawned so far away. We didn't have any respawn beacons down, because I thought for sure the attack would be able to take C1 here. But 5 men from the C1 side, from the defense, were able to hold things down and keep their dreams alive of holding here at C. And at the very least, making these next points way more difficult. Holy moly, well played.
Yeah, absolutely. And the vehicle economy right now for Squirtle Squad is actually looking good. We, of course, still have Mr. Wormy in that tank destroyer. Another vehicle kind of off in the distance right there. That looks like it's going to be Hazu over there. So they're actually looking good. But as I say that, the attack also has a couple of vehicles rolling up to the C1 point. And I like that, you know, kind of thing that you pointed out there, Goj. We're at 95 tickets right now, and they still have to work their way onto C1. The economy of the tickets is now going to play a part. Yeah, Squirtle Squad has already done a great job at defending this, because it may be enough to kind of dip into the replenishment if the Avengers are able to capture this and go towards D.
Yeah, so far so good. C1 still in jeopardy, but Wormy continues to find value out of that tank destroyer. Armored Transport does pick up a couple kills on the edge, but they lost their love, and so in this fight, the vehicle advantage is going to the defense by a pretty sizable margin here. We're going to barrel stuff our opponents, because they're all hiding from the tank destroyer around the corner. Looks like maybe we missed one hiding in the corner, but either way you look at it, the defense, a nice advantage, and they're capitalizing on it by maintaining control over C1 and trying to put more bodies on the point, holding these angles.
I mean, once again, it's like the same play on repeat. It looks like the attack is getting a strong foothold on C1. Looks like they might capture, and then boom, Mr. Wormy just dives in with the tank destroyer to go ahead and kind of flip things around. Now, you know, listen, I'm not gonna lie, you were kind of talking about it. It looked like it was gonna be a stomp for the Avengers, but the Squirtle Squad, they've done a great job of turning this around.
Yeah, this is insane. Looks like Maki has got one of the vehicles. There's now 3 vehicles on the side of the defense. Again, Trainwreck flushed with vehicles, but you've got to maintain control over them. The control of the vehicles is everything. A 3-to-1 vehicle advantage on the side of the defense. They're fully holding C1. They are holding just about every angle inside of this building in C1. I don't see the defense getting wiped out of this building anytime soon, unless a miracle comes through the skies in the form of either a guided missile or maybe an artillery barrage that finds a ton of value, but I can't imagine that's going to be the case. The attackers cannot find a foothold anywhere.
As you can see, Mr. Wormy right there somehow was coming from the attacking side as if he was the one attacking. And that being said, the investment from Mr. Wormy to dive the tank destroyer onto C1, he's actually going to go down. Shout out to Leo there for finding the rocket that's going to go ahead and blow this up. And look at this. The push from the attack, it's actually pushing the vehicles off, and the defense is seemingly conceding the point, because they're like, hey, listen, we don't want to lose any more vehicles on the C sector. We've done a great job. They've only got 50 tickets left. They won't be at full tickets for the push to D, so maybe they've kind of conceded the point. But as I say that, C2 is now going back in favor of the defense.
Yeah, this is really well played by the defense, frankly, because on C1, losing Wormy and the tank destroyer means that you only had a couple other vehicles on the backside who were all getting peppered. The attackers, instead of playing point, moved up with AT4s and just started blasting. And at the very least, it keeps the pressure off of your team so that you can get onto the point and actually play gun to gun inside of a more CQB battle, which they seem to be slowly but surely winning with some extra help of their vehicles. So an interesting trade here. And now the attackers have a position to take both of these points finally, albeit they've lost a crazy amount of lives. C2 in jeopardy, C1 going to the side of the attackers. This is still anybody's game, but it's looking better and better for the Squirtle Squad the longer this map goes on.
It's going to be close. I can't believe Mr. Wormy was in another tank destroyer right after getting blown up right there, but it looks like he's going to lose another tank destroyer. So back-to-back explosions and destruction on the tank destroyers that Mr. Wormy's had, all in what was felt like about a minute and a half, 2 minutes right there. So that's going to be a big investment from the defensive side of things. But that being said, it's kind of working out. The attack inside the Avengers, they have not been able to capture C1 yet. 25 tickets remaining. And as I say that, they're finally going to get it.
Woo! You get about 60 every single time. So we got down to 20 lives on that one. That would took a while. 120 lives in total, to be fact. So going into our next point, this is where the rubber meets the road. You now have to make, frankly, a very difficult capture with only 80 lives. This is the nature of Victory Unite. There's a lot less revives. There's some extra ways to gain score, and you're into D1 and D2. This is it, folks. I said point E, and I made a huge mistake. It's D1 and D2 on the double. It feels like point E, namely because this is one of the only maps where D1 and D2 are actually linearly stacked, hard word to say, because D1 is on the foreground, D2 is on the back end. So to take D2 before D1 is giving up a former position that you have to actually push through unless you do a full wrap around the backside. So D1 and D2 are left, 80 lives to go. It's going to be a very, very tough push with the amount of lives they have remaining.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very tough for sure, right? Because D2, it's so close to where the defenders actually spawn if they do not have any respawn beacons or squad mates to go ahead and spawn in on. But the attack instantly onto D1. This point is actually very, very hard to hold because as you're kind of looking around, there's not a lot of places for you to kind of get a strong foothold because, you know, when you think about it, to defend it on D1, you want to have bodies on, but then because it's kind of under the bridge and the sides of that ground under there are so open that the attacking flanks just get so much value. So you kind of just immediately lose anybody that's kind of down there defending the point. So D1 almost at some points kind of feels like a gimme, but D2 is like hitting a brick wall sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, this is the nature of these long maps. At the end of them, you have the hardest point to capture because it is the closest point to the defensive spawns. It's pretty simple. If you get to the final point, you better be ready to take it with your entire army, and you better be on the point immediately because the defense is going to be spawning in right outside this point. We're now getting into a position of a map that has gone on long enough, you might start seeing a few guided missiles here that will totally change the game, whether they connect or just push bodies off the point fast enough, zoning them off that people can make a play. D1 is a gimme, but it's also a gimme to retake as well to stall this match out, which is why I'm worried for the attack. With the amount of lives they had coming into this, it's just so difficult to capture both of these at the exact same time.
Look at this, we can see the stinger value coming out, going for that $500 from the top medic. I also saw there was a beacon down on D2 just in the outskirts towards that bridge right there. So the attacking side is going to be able to spawn in pretty heavily right now and keep that flow going. Now, usually we kind of see that tug of war kind of played when it comes down to Victory Unite, right? Once they start taking that further objective, they go back. But D1, like I already mentioned, it's such a hard objective to actually do that on. And with D2 being captured right now, the Avengers might be making one of these last second clutches right between C and D right now. Ooh, I don't know. It looks back and forth.
It's back and forth. Our first artillery barrage lands, which means we're going to have a lot more coming in very shortly. A big moment for a couple folks to try to make hero plays. The problem is there's 7 people staring down their guns at you. And here's a quick look at what's happening on D1. Like we said, this is going to be an extremely volatile point. Asta picking up a 4-piece in the kill feed, by the way, off screen, on screen. We're just holding down right trigger. If you're on controller, you're holding down the mouse. If you're on keyboard and mouse, because you got to just fire into the smoke. You can't see anything. And the attackers have won this point as well. Might be trouble on D1, but enough of a breathing room. D2 heads back to the side of the defense, and we're right back into the tug of war that we always see. It's going to be a back and forth, and it's going to be a race against the clock.
Cuervo right there was laying in a corner just spraying the smoke and ended up picking up like 4 kills right there. So that was a great kind of play on D1 to pull some investment from the attackers to go ahead and make sure that he got taken care of. And listen, now that D1 is fully taken care of, there's no real route for any of the defense to go ahead and make their way over there. The full-on flood surely is going to come in from the Avengers.
Artillery strike. Look at the kill feed. It is all green all day. Holy cow. The Squirtle Squad have wiped nearly this entire lobby. I saw Titan, by the way, one of the players I shouted out at the very beginning of this broadcast. Titan is the one that called in the artillery strike, and Asta picks up another 4-piece. It's non-stop artillery strikes, and the attackers have finally called one in on the point as well. Down to 20 lives remaining and quickly dwindling. The defense just knocked off 20 lives in a blink of an eye. This is going to be the last push from the attack. These are the last 17 lives.
Vehicle drop to designated location.
Yeah, and as you can see right there, usually you want to make one of these last pushes with some sort of vehicle, right? Something to get the momentum going, but it looks like it's all just boots on the ground right now, nothing to kind of flow in behind. If I was the commander of the attacking side, I would have maybe called for them to kind of halt the push, because there was a vehicle kind of falling in, back behind them, but instead of waiting for that vehicle to get on the ground and kind of get in and support this attack, they've all started to kind of run in and lose about 15 tickets before that vehicle is able to get onto the point. 7 tickets left. I don't know if they can pull this one out.
Asta's going insane. We've been hyping up Wormy all day, and you see Wormy now back in the vehicle, seeing some nice value as well. But Asta has put up an insane amount of kills inside of their vehicle. It has been nonstop action. The attack have their last ditch effort, their last push. They put their vehicle on the point with a bunch of engineers. The problem is they ran out of time, they ran out of lives, and it was because of the hold on point C1 and C2. Unbelievable heroic efforts and barely holding on. The Squirtle Squad win game 1. Woo, that was a banger.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought Avengers were going to make that a quick one. I thought they were about to steamroll through, have 180 tickets through every single point. It looked so good for them. And, Goj did kind of, spoil it for us early on. He was like, listen, as soon as we get to those double point sectors, it's going to change the name of the game. And that is seemingly what it took for Squirtle Squad to finally get a foothold on the defense. And then, listen, we like to shout him out. We like to talk about it a lot. But Mr. Wormy, I feel like so many times just turned the tide, destroying the vehicles from the attacking side. It looks like that was all it really took for them to kind of start to get some momentum going.
Yeah, it was funny because we talked so much about this during the Fault side of things during the EU finals. And in Fault, we talked about the value of the vehicles. It was almost everything. That is the name of the game in Warfare, just not on every single map. The vehicles have different values based on what map you're playing. Trainwreck is definitely a vehicle-based map, and the vehicle operators won them the game. Squirtle Squad coming on top, Mr. Wormy, of course, but also Asta and everyone supporting them. It's all about the engineers, baby, and it's just about who plays a hair bit better inside of those vehicles. And it started here on point A, and this is the Avengers that we expected to see. Quick work. Don't care about your strategy, and I didn't ask about it. A is going to us, and it's going immediately. And as we head into B, it was pretty much the same story as well.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything to kind of take away from this match, obviously, in my opinion, it kind of looked like Squirtle Squad was a little bit all over the place when it came down to sectors A and B. Obviously, we know during the C and D, they started to look a little bit better as a team. But the Avengers, it was kind of like the opposite of that, right? Those first 2 sectors, it looked like they were such a coherent team, and that was on the attack side of things. A side that, when it comes down to warfare, is arguably a little bit harder. So I feel like they made a great effort push towards, throughout the entirety of the map. They looked very, very good. And now that they're going to, kind of take that defensive side of things and how good they looked on attack, I would not be surprised if we're going to see a 1-1 here out of Avengers, with them going to go ahead and win this defensive side that they are about to be on. So go ahead and strap in, Goj, because if I'm making any early prediction as to how that one went, I think we're going to map 3.
I think it's certainly possible. A very fun point C, like you mentioned. It was a back and forth. It was a give and take, but the defense came in with some heroic efforts and were able to hold them long enough to where only having 80 lives. I literally forgot that this was D1 and D2 because these points stack linearly, and so I was surprised to see there is no E. This is the final push, and you only have 80 lives to take both points. D1, a bit easier to take, but also very easy to lose. So the attackers take it quickly. There is a back and forth. They have to backtrack, retake D1, and then by the time they're actually organized for D2, you got like 20 lives, and you've got Asta and Mr. Wormy just peppering every angle. They just didn't have enough time. That's the nature of Victory Unite, and very well done from the Squirtle Squad to hang on barely to win that whole map. But a win is a win. That is all that matters. And now we get to see them on the attack on the exact same map and see if all that strategizing ends up paying off here, Vivid. I think you might be right. I think we might be going to game 3, but you never know. We're going to head to a very short break here in the booth. When we come back, we're going to flip sides. We're going to see if the attack can finally get it done here on Trainwreck. You're not going to want to miss it. In a finals, it could be the last map of the day. You never know. Don't go anywhere.
You once said we'd meet again in a better future. But now we fight for different beliefs. When despair came for me, it was Havoc that gave me hope. And when you raised your gun at me, did you forget what we once had? From now on, I will no longer hesitate. My blade will carry out my conviction.
I'm using a gradient descent algorithm to figure out the most energy efficient way to get this done.
What?
Getting there. Come on, we've got plenty more to do.
Rashid Rahal, codename Gizmo. Role, engineer. Gizmo, a native operator from Asara, is highly skilled in mechanical technology, specializing in the design and application of engineering devices and tactical tools. He once served as a technical specialist in the Royal Asaran Defense Force, where he gained extensive combat experience. As an operator, Gizmo utilizes mechanical creations for surveillance and tracking. He can deploy smoke mines, which can be remotely triggered, and use sentry bots to mark, damage, and slow enemies within range. Gizmo's tactical equipment is Tenacious Interception Module. The spider-shaped bot, codenamed Tim, patrols a designated path once deployed. Upon detecting enemies, it enters tracking mode, and once in range, deploys a net that limits their movement and firing.
Mission complete. Preparing to extract. We will end this war someday. This land will no longer be stained with the blood of the people.
Welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare NA Finals. It is 1-0 on the side of Squirtle Squad versus the Avengers, barely holding on Vivid to the final point of the final sector. A great way to start this competition. Like you said right before the break, I think we're going to Game 3.
Oh, that's how Warfare goes, right? The momentum's feeling good. You're like, A was easy, B was easy, C was a little bit tough. Let's go ahead and get that last one, and then boom, you get stopped in your tracks right there. The defense proving once again to be very, very strong for the Squirtle Squad. But now we know how this works, coach. They've got to go on the attack, and it'll be very, very interesting if they can put up a good as attack as the Avengers did.
Yeah, I think momentum obviously is the name of the game. We've been talking about this last weekend, this weekend with the EU finals. It's all momentum on the attack. You've got to keep the defense on their heels. So I'll be curious to see what happens. But let's take a look back at some of the scores from that last game. Let's look at some of our individuals that are popping off.
My
gosh. Hey, yo, Wormy. I mean, I knew you had it. I didn't know you had it like that. 74? Huh?
Dude, 74 is actually crazy. Like, yeah, we knew he was kind of popping off, and I was waiting to see the leaderboard here because I was very curious how many. 74. Holy moly. I'm very, very happy that he actually ended up getting 74 because sometimes good when we talk about it, right? It feels like there's like an MVP performance, but it's not like, you know, necessarily being rewarded. But as it currently stands, Mr. Wormy is earning that $500 for that top Slayer.
Holy cow. Yeah, it is a total, but certainly you just expect him to end up winning if he puts up okay games in the next one or two that we have to play. Let's look at some of the other scores, though. Obviously, some other insane stat lines. Luca's at the top of the Avengers side of things. No wonder they were crushing it, and no wonder they were able to have maximum lives going all the way in to point C. 90 revives from Foxilia, a top score earner in the Avengers, lost with only 12 kills because they were going around keeping people up and conserving those tickets, conserving those lives. Foxilia, by far the most revived across the board, with a couple other notable standouts in the revive category. Block Salta there, third place overall on the Avengers side with 53. And over there on the defending side, on the Squirtle Squad side, we did see 45 from Hayes Azu, which is going to be the most from the defending side. So a lot of support this time around. And I'm really pumped to see what happens. Asta, obviously, as well. DFI Asta there on the Squirrel Squad. Second overall score, 32 total kills with several big score lines. The vehicles are going crazy.
Yeah, one thing that's not like glaringly obvious, right? That last column right there, right? You can see the objective column. Usually when we kind of check out these leaderboards, there's some stragglers down there who are usually in like single digits or maybe kind of struggling to reach up to 20 right now. But everybody in the server is just playing the objective so hard, right? It feels like these numbers are so high if you were to kind of add them up and look at any of the other leaderboards that, at least that I've been a part of, right? Like earlier on today in EU, it didn't really feel like they were all that high, or last weekend in the semifinals, it didn't really feel like that was, you know, at least 100% investment into the objective as much as we're kind of seeing here. It just looks so even across the board that the entire team on both sides of things is playing the objective very well.
Yeah, and here's a look at the overall. It was about as even as we thought it was.
Wow.
That is crazy. 453 total kills for the side of the Squirtle Squad, 487 on the side of the Avengers, with a slight score lead overall for the Squirtle Squad. That's how close that game truly was. It went all the way down to D2. I will say, by the way, from an individual kill tally and score tally separation of our different squads inside of the teams, we highlighted the right squad at the top of the show, Vivid. Syndicate had 3 out of the top 4 players from the side of the Squirrel Squad, namely because of that vehicle usage and the role that they've been put on their team. So very well done from the Squirrel Squad, but this is very even back and forth. And so we must flip the sides and go play Trainwreck again. This time Squirrel Squad on the attack. And to win this competition outright, to win the North American Finals, they must win on the attack right now. If our defense wins again, aka a different team, aka the Avengers, we will go to Game 3, which will be a different map, and then we'll get to see who gets to select if they want to play attack, defense, pick the map, or anything in between. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll break it all down if we get there. So, Vivid, we're headed into Trainwreck, and your prediction was what? The Avengers hold?
Yeah, I think the defenders are going to hold this one, right? The Avengers, I think we're going to have 1-1. They looked so good on the attack. The defensive side of things, I expect nothing less out of them. I think they can easily replicate what the Squirtle Squad was able to pull off right there. But then again, Squirtle Squad have shown before that they are a team that is to be reckoned with. A thing that is actually in the back of my mind right now, right? We see how good the Squirtle Squad is with the vehicles. On the attack of Trainwreck, you start with a vehicle. So that momentum might start off very, very early for our attackers. We'll have to see if they can use that to go ahead and steamroll through some of these sectors. And we're in.
Yeah, we got a couple ATVs and we got a tank on the back line as we start things off here on point A. Not a point that usually teams are able to hold for very long. As much as we're hyping up the Squirtle Squad and their win that they just got, we've got to remember there is this weird, I don't know, fear in the back of my mind. Gotta remember, they got held on point A, it cracked. You never know.
Yeah, I'm sure they're thinking about it a little bit as well. Just kidding, right? We're in a competition. These guys are stone cold. They don't even remember what they had for dinner yesterday, let alone semifinals last weekend. And this is kind of a weird one because I'm seeing a bunch of kills kind of go off in the feed, but there's still 180 tickets, right? So those reses are coming through and proving to be very valuable right off the rip.
Yeah, that's a lot of bodies hitting the ground that aren't headed back to the respawn screen, getting picked up quite quickly to have full lives. Nobody actually fulled yet. Like we've seen, both sides really prioritizing revives. And frankly, I think, you know, the thing that we talked about with Victory Night is that you have to. If you're not prioritizing revives, what are you doing? You only have 180 instead of the like 300 some odd that you get in a normal attack and defense. With a big lobby, of course, there's a few more players on the map when you do that. Victory Night is only 20v20, but quickly speaking of Victory Unite here, one of the other notes that we had during the semifinals was that Zinseer on the part of squad of Syndicate was actually elected to be commander, did the drafting of teams, and then gave away the commander to Exterminia, part of the Squirtle Squad, because they wanted somebody that could speak both of the languages or all of the languages represented amongst their entire team of 20 players, which I think is a really cool thing. And Exterminia has actually maintained the commander position for this overall roster as well, just confirmed it in Discord, so watch out for that player to see how they're actually commanding the troops so that Wormy and the Syndicate can fly around the map.
Awesome to hear that there's some teamwork kind of going on there to make sure that the commander is in the hands of the rightful person there. And there's actually been a huge kind of strategy difference that's been pretty blaringly obvious, right? The Squirtle Squad, when they were on the defense of Sector A, like I talked about, they wanted that concrete building, that concrete slab that was kind of elevated on the right side if you are on the attack side of things. And the Avengers kind of didn't really care about it. They attacked on the opposite side of things. You know, Avengers, now that they're on the defense, they didn't play for that building at all either. And Squirtle Squad kind of attacked from that side, took that building over. And once they had enough, you know, soldiers over there and people over there towards that building, they kind of called in a synchronized flood onto the point right now. So we're kind of seeing the repercussions of that right now. But I cannot lie, as it currently stands, this is seemingly a longer defense than we saw in game number 1. The Avengers are looking mighty good at fending this one off.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting strategy. They kind of backed off of the point, and then once the point started getting ticked down, that's when everybody flooded together as a unit. So as a tank takes a couple shots here, it's just going to keep shelling from a distance. That is Asta yet again, by the way, in the tank. I think this is pretty traditional flow that they've decided upon. Mr. Wormy's in here, the Syndicate. We know that Wormy's going to go crazy if he gets a tank destroyer, but the tank itself is being left to Asta, and Asta is getting some nice value shelling the point.
This is incredible stuff right there, right? As we were kind of looking over the point, I saw somehow, I think there was like a respawn beacon out or somebody, a part of the Syndicate, which is Mr. Wormy, Zinseer, Chick Chick Boom, and Randy Savage. They kind of spawned in behind. This is a flank coming in right now. Whoever got back there for this squad and spawned in, all 4 of them, just got so much value in removing a lot of the defenders right there. Mr. Wormy squad, they don't have that vehicle this time around, but proving once again to be a very valuable squad on the side of Squirtle Squad.
Yeah, great shout. A lot of our players trying to be individual heroes. Anytime you can get a multi-kill as an individual on one life, it's a lot of value for your team. However, as much as we're seeing some big moments, that kill feed is all green, man. Bunny Quid putting up a couple 2 or 3 piece there on the point. It looks like just maybe one squad from the attack that's actually able to find some footing around the point to keep it in contention. And there it is. The squad on the point, seeing a ton of value, finally answering back as more shells come raining down from our tank. Finally, we're in the neutral zone.
Yeah, I think now that the attack side has kind of gotten to a certain point, it's going to be very hard for the defenders to kind of get back into this one and go ahead and defend it. And, you know, as I'm saying that, being proven wrong quite a few times while watching these Warfare tournaments, the defense is actually making a very strong foothold towards this objective once again. I'm not sure how you're getting so many spawns so close to this point, right? It looked like they were all kind of running in. It looks like they had lost that space, but no, they're actually close enough. Must have been some high-value respawn beacons.
Yeah, we've already got our first urgent deployment time being activated here in this game, which is pretty interesting strategy to go ahead and burn this here. You allow to quickly spawn onto this point as fast as humanly possible. I would expect that's from the attack. There's a chance the defense is burning it here on point A as well. They feel like they can maybe completely retake this point right now. It's looking like that is the case. A sole squad actually on the point for the attack. Not able to find really anything for it. But this is a huge flank actually from Zen. That's a triple and maybe more if he can get the reload off. And he is able to. There's a quad. Can I have another one? Sincere putting on a show for us right now. That is 5 in a row on main. Very well done to clear out the point nearly as an individual. With a bit of backup, a hero play proving to be an option and an opportunity for the attack to finally find some ground. Holy cow.
I mean, just once again, the squad, they just keep finding that position to kind of come in from the flank. I'm not sure how they're getting over there, and nobody on the defensive side of things is kind of stopping them. And finally does go down, but the damage, you got to imagine, is already done. The attack, though, it seems thwarted, right? Look at this. The capture is going back in favor of the defense, and we're kind of approaching that threshold for where the tickets expended onto Sector A here, it'll start to hurt you for the rest of the game if they end up capturing it at all.
I'm not trying to put the curse in the air, but my mind keeps going back to crack point A in the semifinals. Don't do it to me. We gotta find an opening. Zinser's gonna have to do it again. Was the hero for a moment, but only a moment. Because you're right, the defense has completely retaken this point. The Avengers are in final form.
Yeah, I think for me, Asta has to do something a little bit different on the tank. Again, you want to keep the tank safe. You don't want to go ahead and push in. You want to stay in those hills towards where you're spawned because you feel like you do get enough value towards this point to where you should be able to capture it because you're just constantly raining in missiles. But I think we're at 120 tickets. We've got to capture A soon. Listen, you're either going to lose it or you're going to, get involved with a tank at this point. I feel like we've got to get a different position with that tank, kind of similar to how we see Mr. Wormy get involved. And yeah, there's Mr. Wormy. Okay, we're probably gonna capture this soon now.
Well, this is the name of the game, man. If you can rack up enough score to get the vehicles you need to make a play, both vehicles now coming in and just start blasting down range through some of these small sight lines, it's gonna open things up quite dramatically. You see a couple different names getting involved. That's Cedo Lover actually picking up, I think that was 4 probably inside the tank with Asta as they work together to try to clear out this point. They're seeing some nice value, but the defense is doing a really good job of getting their revives as well. They're able to get to this point way quicker than they should for a point A, and they still have a foothold here, even though they're losing a lot of bodies to the ground. They're not losing a lot of bodies to the respawn screen.
I mean, what is happening right here? It looked like they had such a good push. There were so many kills going off in the feed from the vehicles, and then we kind of panned out right there, and there was just nobody on the attack side anywhere near the point. This is going to hurt Squirtle Squad. Even if they end up capturing A here, they have already kind of dipped into the tickets that they should be using towards B and the further sectors right now. But I'm not even necessarily worried about the amount of tickets I'll have for that. I'm worried about whether or not they're going to capture A at all.
Yeah, again, the Avengers have felt like a well-oiled machine on just about every single moment, besides maybe a blip in their timeline of success, which was C1 last map. It's their first loss they've ever seen on main. But right now, they look like the final form Avengers that we've been seeing throughout the course of these last couple weeks of competition. Nearly infallible. They've maintained control even in dire circumstances. Now, I have seen so many kills go to the side of the attack. This has got to be the opening that they need, right? You've got to expect it.
I mean, yeah, finally, it looks like there's like almost no defenders left. And, you know, the Viren's going to be dashing in right now, trying to make a last-ditch effort play. But I think a little bit of BM classic. We need that. We need that. Yeah, finally getting a foothold towards the A objective here. It looks like they are going to be able to capture. I do see a lot of, you know, defensemen kind of jumping into the point at the last second there. But yeah, they're not going to be able to, you know, defend it off for any longer. And yeah, look at that, Gooj. You're supposed to have 180, or at max you can have 180 going into B. They're at 150, so yeah, already down 30.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. It's like, it's not the end of the world, but 30 lives could make or break your game. It really depends now. They have no more room for error. They burned all of it in point A. Going into point B, they have to cap very, very quickly. If you have any error at any slow point in point B, you're going to be punished for it now because you don't have those extra lives as a buffer. Again, we traditionally say if you're going in with max points, then you really don't want to dip below 120 lives. Well, you're starting only with 150. So you got to capture point B in 30 lives if you want to go into point C1 and C2, which we know to be some of the hardest, with your full lives, so you even have a chance to capture D1 and D2, which again, you need nearly full lives to do. So a lot of kind of macro math, if you will. The answer is you better get a move on. You got to capture B ASAP.
Look at the storm from the Squirtle Squad up the right side, right? One of the criticisms that I had in the last game, right, where Squirtle Squad was defending, they didn't really play the hill in front of B. And as you can see, a little bit of difference right here. The Avengers are actually playing that hill, but maybe we can see why they didn't play that hill, because the Squirtle Squad realized that, hey, listen, they're playing that hill. We could just run up this right side, get onto the bridge, and, you know, you got to favor this position a little bit more than the hill because you're right above the point. You've got the high ground.
Yeah, no, I really like this play from the Squirtle Squad. A very well-coordinated effort. We're criticizing their coordination as well. And it's nearly perfect to get onto the high ground here and be able to play over the top on this bridge. The battle for the bridge is one of my favorite positions on this map, frankly. A very fun one to play for if done correctly. So well done to get up here. Now it's a matter of what you do with this high ground.
Yeah, they do have to work their way down at some point. I feel like I would be a little bit uncomfortable if I was on the defense right here, right? It just feels like you've lost so much instantly after kind of putting up a great defense onto A right there, as the hack is not going to be, hey, don't bring your little iPad to a gunfight. And as I say that, he's going to be going into the smoke and not being found right there, as Warhawk going to be playing the Glock. And wow, okay, you know, do bring your iPad to a gunfight.
That was such a funny sequence. I love that we have the observer POV where we can see it through the smoke, because these players are waffling trying to figure out where the heck these people are. Need some more Luna arrows, I guess. Good grief. A lot of smoke as per the usual to cover some of these sight lines. Without usual kind of physical cover, you need that visual cover to be able to make plays and outplay your opponent. That's exactly what Squirtle Squad is trying to do up on the high ground. I haven't seen a ton of value from the high ground yet. They've got a couple solos trying to play down on the low side just to put some pressure on the point. But right now, it's just a battle for the high ground that they're losing.
I'm not really sure how they're losing either, right? It looked like Mr. Wormy was actually on the other side of the bridge, right? Obviously, we see the attackers. They're kind of on the attacking side's right side of the bridge. And it looked like Mr. Wormy was using the tank destroyer on the left side, and it looked like they had a lot of ground kind of claimed. But yeah, I'm not sure. The bridge is still being fought for, not necessarily the point. And yeah, you saw Mr. Wormy went down in the tank destroyer off to the left there.
Yeah, Wormy down the tank destroyer means our only attacking vehicle right now that we can see, at least for a moment, is going to be that tank that we've had since the beginning of the game, who again is playing kind of back shelling or almost artillery strikes from a distance to make sure they stay alive. Not a crazy amount of value, but some. You're going to need it for the future points, but here's a quick look. That high ground position now in trouble. The tank really low health. It looks like we've got a couple more vehicles coming in on the backside, though, as we dwindle down. Our tank goes down the defense. Well-timed, well-executed. A couple of AT-4s and a tank destroyer are certainly going to take down our starting tank for the attackers.
Yeah, I mean, the attack is, you know, they're doing a good job, in my opinion, of getting to solid positions. They, you know, they've had vehicle economy, but just in terms of maybe coordinating a push onto the point with enough people to justify a solid attack has seemingly been the weakness over the course of just Sector A and B already. So we'll have to see if they can kind of turn it around and actually go ahead and capture this one before they do lose out on too many more tickets.
It's a fun little bout there around the AA gun. Nice little solo play from one of our defenders to take out the gun that was shooting at their vehicles. We're seeing a pretty wide variety of operator choices as per the usual. Of course, several stingers. You got to play for the revives, but a couple hack claws as well to get some value through the smokes, be able to hunt down your prey. The defense now set up on low side. They're still attacking high ground. They're making it difficult for a full push of an entire team to come from high, but they're prioritizing staying on the point, and I think this is the right play for now. And we have knocked down our attack to below 120 lives, so overall a success. That buffer that you need going to C1, C2 will not be had by the attackers. They've got to get on this point ASAP. They're going to have a very difficult time capturing the next 4 points.
Man, I've been kind of keeping an eye on the kill feed, and, you know, the Syndicate, which is Mr. Wormy's squad and co, they did kind of get that similar play off once again, where they got behind enemy lines, right? They all kind of spawned in behind, and Mr. Wormy using the bow was picking off multiple people, and, you know, after he did that, he finally got involved onto the point. I feel like maybe that's what we're missing as well. You know, we've seen a lot of value from the Syndicate squad in terms of, you know, vehicle play and getting those flanks in, but in terms of actually getting on the point, I feel like that team, or that squad, has been a little bit lackluster. And, you know, as I'm critiquing the entire team for kind of getting bodies on the point, we should see them kind of get involved a little bit more as well. So good to see them kind of, you know, filing in towards the point, and, you know, the efforts of the attack once again, it's going to be thwarted. The Avengers on defense are just looking Loctite.
Yeah, very well done thus far. We are finally seeing our point B go into neutral zone and even into the attacker's favor by a slight margin. There's still a lot of defenders still on the point. I will say this tank has now got great value over the top, not only with the machine gunner, but also the tank shelling coming in from a distance. And now you're seeing the attackers. They found their footing. Here's their push. It is all red in the kill feed. They have lined them all up and they've knocked them all down, and they're going to take B out of nowhere. 152 going into the next round. Is it enough for C1 and C2? Maybe just barely. It wouldn't have been actually enough for the Avengers last round. They needed all 180 nearly. They needed 160 to take both C1 and C2. Let's see how long it takes the Squirrel Squad.
Love that shot right there. As soon as they captured B, right, it's kind of like I blinked, and then all of a sudden the attack had like 4 vehicles up. So the momentum that they're going to have rolling towards this C sector is going to be a little bit worrisome because, again, look at this. The cavalry on the right side of the map. There's 4 vehicles about to push towards C2 right now, and there's a lone tank destroyer over there that is going to have to fend off all of these vehicles. You got to imagine right now, the Squirrel Squad does look like they have what it takes to potentially get some early momentum towards C.
Yeah, it looks like they're actually pushing for C2 first as they swing around this kind of low right side, and already some nice value coming in with the vehicles. It does look like the defense now have 2 and make it 1. A vehicle cut down. Asta finding great value there in the distance, will probably lose their life for it, but we take those trades when we have the vehicle advantage, especially if there's somebody else to follow up on it, but it doesn't look like there is. Unfortunately, that last vehicle of the defense will not be cut down. Squirrel Squad with an advantage, but not a massive one anymore.
Yeah, I think that was a win for the defense for sure, right? They look like a 4-on-2 vehicle attack on that right side over there, and it looks like, you know, 3 of the vehicles end up being destroyed for just 1 of the defense side. So definitely a win there for the Avengers. And as I say that, man, the Squirrel Squad just does such a good job with their score management, because every single time we feel like they've lost a vehicle, they just bring another one back, right? I can see off in the distance, it look like Mr. Wormy is yet again in a tank destroyer.
Yeah, and this is one of the things, too, that you think about warfare and you think about public matches. The guided missile is a public match hero. It is like the best thing you can call in.
I love it.
Satisfying thing you can do, but it costs a ton of points. Even the artillery barrages are decently expensive. Now, these vehicles, they rack up and score. The more you call in, the more expensive vehicles will be. But these teams know for us to win, especially a coordinated customs like this, a tournament, we have to have vehicles. We can't be saving up for these, I don't know, we'll call them flashy score streaks or support systems that you can call in. So they're going to be prioritizing vehicles every single time. And they also can coordinate who gets in the vehicle. So it's not just Wormy's squad calling in the vehicles and then getting in their own, as we do see a nice AT4 takedown from the Squirrel Squad of the defensive vehicles. They're all going to be feeding vehicles, namely tank destroyers, to Wormy. One of the reasons why he's always in one.
Yeah, love to see the kind of the coordination and not only coordination but the trust, right? Like, hey, listen, just take it all, man. You want a tank destroyer, sure, you go ahead and have one, because they know how good he has been doing now. It does look like the attack has gone ahead and destroyed all of the defensive vehicles, right? So now we are left with, you know, the tank here that's been alive for the entirety of the game, which I'm sure the Avengers absolutely hate. They're like, how is that thing still alive? And then Mr. Wormy, of course, in the tank destroyer. So 2 vehicles for the Squirtle Squad to go ahead and try to make something happen. Now, I feel like we've been on C for a very long time, but there's, you know, shout out to everybody playing on the Squirtle Squad, because they have not overstepped. They haven't thrown bodies on the point. They have waited for the vehicle game to kind of play out and for them to win it, because look how many tickets they're at right now. They're at 110. They started this push with 150. I feel like we've been here for a very long time and they only have gone down 40. So I feel like they've been kind of holding back and not necessarily throwing all of the bodies yet. They're going to wait for an opportune time to go ahead and make one of these solid pushes.
Yeah, Randy Savage got several AT4 shots in the back of that vehicle and was able to get it almost all the way down. Randy playing outside of combat while on the point, allowing his team to spawn on him, his squad. You're going to see this indicate on C1 right now. We'll see how much value they can get out of that. As C2 is fully locked down by the defense, it's going to be all C1 right now. See what they can do. Wormy, when not in the vehicle, is wielding the compound bow, because a one-shot weapon in warfare is very fun if you're good at the game. If you start missing, it's the worst. But very, very fun when you're talented. So far, so good.
An amazing thing for Wormy is, you know, ahead of the semifinals last weekend, right before we had started the show, I kind of tuned into Wormy's stream, and he was kind of, you know, he kept jumping into public matches. He was like, yeah, just give me like one more warm-up match. Like, I want to see if I like this thing. And what he was kind of talking about there was, I feel like he has recently actually adapted the bow as his choice of weapon, right? So to see how good he is with it, and he just sort of picked it up seemingly right before semifinals started last weekend, carried it into the finals now, right? He just picks up so many kills with it. So shout out to Mr. Wormy for, you know, kind of using a weapon that we do not see a lot of people use at all, but finding great success with it.
Yeah, you can see Randy playing nice and slow here, making sure his team can spawn on him on the point. This is a sacrificial play, certainly. Let's see if he's able to stay there. If you stay out of combat long enough, you all know this, then your team can spawn on you, even if you're in the danger zone, if you will. C1 almost goes to the side of the attackers. The lone soldier still on C1 is Randy Savage, laying down in the corner, hoping his team's going to be able to spawn back on him. I think it's working for him right now. He's getting a ton of value out of it and maintaining at least a little bit of pressure onto the point. But I will say Nia's blocking Warrock, Salta, that squad has been putting up crazy numbers today as well and had some really heroic plays on main. Watch out for that quad.
Yeah, finally, Randy is able to kind of step back up there, get some of the spawns kind of flowing for his squad, and they're going to make a solid push towards the capture of C1 right now. Yeah, it looks like there's definitely going to be enough attackers on this one to go ahead and secure this foothold here, as Seb's going to be, you know, getting a quick glimpse of the defense who's trying to come in from the flank, but easily going to thwart that. So now we've got 70 tickets left remaining for the Squirtle Squad. They seemingly have finally captured C1, and as I say that, actually the defense is swarmed once again and started to defend it again. I don't know, this is the Avengers, just they've done so much damage to the Squirtle Squad. I don't know if they're going to be able to win this.
Yeah, it's close. C1, another good push here from the attackers. Urgent deployment time is up, I would assume, for the attack. They are pushing aggressively over to C1, trying to get at least one of these points fully locked down with the help of their vehicle. This Nia squad is doing great work on there. But unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to do enough. C1 is on the side of the attackers, at least for now. But the problem is you got to capture both. And how do you do that when the defense is nearly perfect on the day? So far, Not getting a ton of value on C2 right now, just trying to maintain some sort of stability here, and they can't even get up to high ground. I can't imagine they hold C1 for long.
I'm not worried yet, right? Because this was about the tickets in the last game that we kind of saw, where the Avengers actually ended up clutching up and just barely had enough tickets left to go ahead and capture C. And with the vehicles kind of making sure that, well, I mean, the vehicles just finding value on both of the points simultaneously is awesome to kind of see right there. And hopefully it can work its way back to C2, because C2 is once again being lost. We've got to go ahead and rotate some of those bodies from C1 over to C2, but it's really, really hard because as you can see, C1 is under constant contestation from the defense.
Yeah, it's tight on both. C2 going back to the defense, though, and we're running out of lives. You're right. The attackers last time, the Avengers, when they were attacking, got it down to 20, and somebody saved up for a guided missile. Where will it land? Will it see any value at all? Can it get through one of these roofs, maybe, or play the outside of the map? It's going to land on top of C2 and do absolutely nothing besides maybe zone a couple people off from being on the point, which is going to allow a couple of the attackers to at least get some ground over there to be able to drop it into the neutral zone. If our one squad exterminia, our commander, can hold C1, if they can win a heroic gunfight on C1, our attackers could make a play on the back of that guided missile.
Yeah, it does look like the tides are turning right now. C1 seems to be under strong control right now. C2 with the vehicles getting involved, kind of running into the building right now. It is getting captured very, very fast. The guided missile did not pick up any kills, but it had the defense in a swarm. They let go a lot of the positions that they had to make sure that they did not die to it, and seemingly that was going to be the biggest fault so far for the Avengers.
Oh,
yeah, it looks like C is going to fall here for sure.
It's so close. This is nearly the exact same spot that the attackers took both points last time. They're going to be going into D if they are able to cap here with close to 80 to 90 total lives, which we know was not enough for the Avengers last time. It's about as close as it could possibly be. The defense, though, they're able to get all of these revives. They've got so many bodies on the point. They are holding on for dear lives. And Asta picks up like 7. Asta comes in with a tank and says, fine, I'll do it myself. Clears out the whole point, saving the day. Your revives mean nothing to me when I throw a tank shell into your face. All of those bodies fully wiped. And we go into points D1 and D2 with 77 lives. Just 3 less than the Avengers had to try to take both points, and we all know how that went. Squirtle Squad back against the wall. They got to make a move, and they got to get both these points extremely quickly.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting right now. It looks like the Squirtle Squad has way better vehicle economy going into D than the Avengers had when they were attacking right now. It does look good potentially for the 2-0 happening right now, but of course, as we know, the Sector D is going to be the hardest one to kind of work through right now. And with C going all the way down to the very last moment, I don't know if they're going to be able to pull things out. One thing that I do like from the Avengers right now, from the defensive side of things, is that they're actually, trying to face forward. They're actually getting ahead of D1. They're going to fight a little bit for D1 right now and make the attackers work for that point. Whereas on the other side of things, in that last game, we kind of saw it concede very, very quickly.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and explain this just in case we get there. As a reminder, this is win condition for Squirtle Squad. If they win this map, if they capture both these points, Squirtle Squad are your champions in NA Finals. If they do not capture both of these, they have to at least capture D1 to tie the Avengers in terms of how far they made it, which means the final capture percentage of D2 and D1 combined at the end of the game when lives hit 0, if they do not cap, will determine who has priority selection going into game 3, which means they can pick either side or map. So a lot of math behind the scenes and a lot of screenshots we'll have to review to make sure that we have those percentages right. But they first have to capture D1 to tie, and then it's about how much value do you have on D2 if your lives hit 0 if they just don't capture both outright.
Shout out to whoever's going to be making decisions there with those percentages if they do come down to that. And we don't get to talk a lot about the individual performances or those kind of one-off plays, but right now Seb kind of being this nuisance that is just creeping around on the point, making sure he's touching it and capturing it and just kind of ratting around to make sure that defense has something to think about.
Yeah, again, this is what we talked about last time. D1, extremely easy to take, extremely hard to hold. So whichever team has it, the best option if you're in trouble on the opposite point is to move in and just start taking this one. At the very least, to give yourself breathing room. Problem is we don't have a lot of lives. 59 now and counting. Dwindling, honestly, fairly slowly for what it's worth. The attacker's doing a good job of reviving.
Yeah, the attackers are doing a great job of making sure they don't lose too many tickets right now, but they are not doing a great job of capturing D1, which was seemingly a very easy one to capture for the Avengers, right? The problem kind of became apparent on D2, but the Avengers are interested in making sure that they maintain control of the bridge right now, and Asta is going to be all the way off in the distance on the Alluru, just kind of throwing rockets in. Oh my gosh, a 4-piece.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Swell picking up a quad. That's on Wormy, by the way. That's going to be that full Syndicate squad that was in the tank destroyer with the attackers down in a tank destroyer. This is looking grim. Now, I will say, I think another vehicle is being called in, maybe by both sides. Likely one of the last vehicles that both sides will be able to call in before this game is over. Again, if D1 is never captured by Squirtle Squad, then the Avengers will have priority selection going into game 3 if the Avengers win it here. Down to 38 lives. It's looking like that's what's going to happen. We got to at least get D1 to make it come down to the 3rd tiebreaker to determine who gets to pick for this final map of the day.
I'd be very curious if that's what the Avengers are thinking about right now, because again, they are, throwing a lot of resources at D1 right now. Are they thinking about, hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and defend this, right? We were confident that we're going to defend this at some point, but defending D1 is important as ever, right? We want to have priority going into match number 3 so that they can probably, we're going to assume, pick the defense, right? Because they feel a little bit more confident on the defensive side of things. So it's working out very, very well so far. And as I say that, right, D2 is actually falling very, very fast.
Yeah, I mean, this is the nature of the game. You spend all your resources on D1, all of a sudden you could look up and D2 could be gone. If this goes into the neutral zone, this could be a nice boon here. A guided missile has been called in. I would expect this is from the defense landing on D2. I don't know. A lot of bodies from the defense have moved back to D2 to try to make a play. Guided missile comes in, it lands on D1 and gets absolutely nothing. That's going to be attacker guided missile. They're trying to clear out D1. Yes, people backed off. Yes, they're going to be able to get bodies on the point, as everybody on the defense has moved over to D2 besides a couple lone soldiers. Another guided missile coming in with 20 lives remaining, both in jeopardy, but D1 looking like it's going to go to the attackers.
Yeah, here comes the very, very expensive streaks here. That guided missile is going to pick up one. That was another one from the attacking side, so they've got a lot of score to work with, but again, not necessarily finding the value that you would imagine that they wanted, right? D2 is going to be in the firm hands of the Avengers, and with only 15 tickets remaining for Squirtle Squad, and D1 just barely getting captured. I don't know. This one's going to be close.
All right, it's going to come down to a VOD review, folks. They've captured the same amount of points. Comes down to D2, and it comes down to 13, but the Squirtle Squad could technically win it right here. Another guided missile lands on D2, gets absolutely nobody, but what it does is it pushes everybody off of D2. The defense on their heels, but I'm seeing green light up the kill feed. They get back onto the point. Urgent deployment time. You only got 8 lives, Vivid. It's coming down to the wire, and I don't know who's going to win this one.
Yeah, incredible efforts from the Avengers. They've defended every single one of these sectors pretty well. Whenever they've lost one, they've put up a good fight throughout. And all that separates them and taking this to a map 3 is those 5 tickets. But as it currently stands, they are seemingly the hardest 5 tickets that any team has ever had to go ahead and pick up, right? D1, D2, constant pressure right now. The defense is picking up D1. Big guided missile onto D2 right there. 2 tickets remaining. Hold your respawn, Squirtle Squad. That's going to be down to 0 right there. The Avengers, in a nail-biting fashion, go ahead and pull out the defense to go ahead and tie things up on Trainwreck.
Oh my goodness, that was insane. Another nail biter. Back-to-back guided missiles, by the way, one from the defense, one from the attack side. The defense actually picked up a 2-piece on the point, but the attackers, they knew the defense had to stay on D1 to recap that, make sure there was no overtime. It's because of that, the guided missile comes in. It was just a hair too late, and it wipes most of that team. I think it was like 6 or 7 that were on the point, but it wasn't enough to do really much of anything. The Avengers win game 2, and folks, we're going to have to go to the screenshots. I don't know who's got priority selection, but what I do know is that we are for sure headed to game 3. Vivid, you were right. This is a nail biter. It's about as close as it could be. We're going to game 3.
Yeah, I mean, this one's going to be a close one, right? That priority is going to matter. What Goj is talking about, right, is, you know, because both teams won from the defensive side of things, we have to go ahead and see who kind of, quote unquote, did the best. So that way, that team that did, quote unquote, win the tiebreaker gets the option to either choose what side they want to play in game number 3, or if they want to pick the map. So very important to see who actually go ahead and won that tiebreaker right there. But listen, the Avengers, you know, we kind of thought Goj was getting a little scared about Sector A earlier on. Squirtle Squad was, you know, looking a little shaky in the boots once again when it came down to that first sector, but they ended up cleaning things up and made one heck of a run on Trainwreck.
Yeah, really, really close, honestly, across the board on every point. It was a battle, man. It was nonstop. And, of course, when we took a look at B, we thought maybe there was going to be some momentum the attackers could bring in with their vehicle advantage. They made a nice play up to the high ground. But, man, we were on B for way too long. We lost a lot of lives here. And, again, if you VOD review, if you look back on this map, I mean, obviously, some big moments here with AT4s to take down some of the vehicles that the attackers were finding so much advantage with. But as you look back on this map, you just think, man, if we just would have captured B a bit faster, a couple more lives going into D, I think we win. It's the same story we said during the replays of the first round for the Avengers. It's the same old story. There's just not a lot of lives to play with in Victory Unite. So pretty interesting stuff. Obviously, as we got to C1 and C2, same stories we saw in map 1 in this matchup with the Avengers on the attack. It took us a long time to get both, almost identical amount of time, but we had 30 less lives going into this point. And so because of that, we get down to just a measly 20 or so, which means going into D1, D2, we only had 77.
Yeah, very crazy as well that this match went on for so long, right? Because it's like, yeah, listen, the last game that we played throughout this series, it made it to the same point. But when we think about how long Sectors A and Sector B took in this game, right? The game overall, lengthwise, was just so much longer. So there's just so much score. I can't believe how many guided missiles as a result of this match just being a little bit longer and allowing these teams to, you know, rack up all that score. How many guided missiles did we see kind of call in at the end there? It was, you know, almost up to 10, it kind of felt like, whereas before we were kind of talking about how, yeah, they're not going to want to call in guided missiles, but because the match went over so long, they had so much extra score, it was like, listen, last ditch effort towards some of these points.
Yeah, and because there wasn't a lot of guided missiles before that, then those don't rally up to be more points. If you try to call in multiple, it's a whole thing, but it was a lot of missiles at the end. It ended up making a ton of difference to make things extremely close. There just wasn't enough lives to capitalize on those missiles, but very close. I'm excited to see who has priority selection on map or side. We'll break it all down when we come back from a very short break, folks. You are not going to want to miss game 3 of a best of 3 here in North America Finals. It's shaping up to be one of the best warfare competitions we've had to date. Not going to want to miss this map. Don't go anywhere.
2035. Leveraging its technological and financial prowess, Havoc has started expanding their presence. Akit, owing to its strategic location, is their primary target. Havoc has already established close cooperation with Akit, providing investment and new technologies to intervene in domestic affairs, all while promising to protect and revitalize the nation. GTI remains vigilant. They suspect Havoc is stealing sensitive data and looting cultural artifacts to fund military operations. Having obtained crucial evidence of Havoc's misdeeds, GTI has taken military action.
There's a few rules to follow in this trade. Planning, focus, efficiency, secrecy, discretion, restraint. One mistake, and you're dead. The secret to my survival lies in one simple tenet. I don't follow shit. Hell yeah. Staying alive. That's all that matters.
Enemy spotted.
Welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare NA Finals. We are moving into Game 3 because, well, it was a trading of blows, Vivid. And here's a quick look at the overall leaderboard from Game 2. Mr. Wormy, what are we talking about, brother? 115 in a customs? In an esports tourney? Good grief.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's crazy. We might be able to, at the end of this, just count his kills from Game 1 and Game 2, and he still might get top Slayer if we don't count his Game 3 at this point. He is seemingly so far ahead of everybody else, putting up such a great individual performance when it comes down to picking up those kills. Of course, we do know that a lot of those kills are coming from the vehicle, and on top of that, hit the rest of his squad, whether it be Zen, Randy, or Chick Chick Boom. They're kind of always on that engineer role, helping him out in that regard. But yeah, getting the credit for 115 in game number 2 is absurd. Other thing that we always love to look at for sure is going to be the revives, right? I feel like Foxilla once again definitely has the most revives. I believe that was the case for game number 1 as well. Yeah. So looking like top medic in that regards. But towards the attacking side of things, it was actually very, very close, right? 2 of the attacking players over there in the 70s. And, you know, we kind of talked about how we saw that the tickets were going down very, very slow during a lot of those attacks. We knew there must have been a ton of revives coming out, and the leaderboard shows just that.
Yeah, again, this is really well done. I mean, this is comp level play. You got to go for revives if you're on the attacking side. So, of course, you see really high numbers. Excited to see, of course, the overalls as well. But individually, of course, Wormy puts up just insane kills. Now, again, expected to some degree because he's basically getting fed vehicles, but still making so much value out of the vehicles that he is being fed by the team to be able to put up this amount of kills, triple digits in a customs. Yes, it went the distance, it went to the final moment, but ridiculous totals. And so really impressive there. Across the board, again, Syndicate, pretty high numbers, but Just Chill, also a pretty strong squad on the attacking side. The Squirtle squad, the defense, like you shouted out, several individuals are putting up great numbers as well. Looney Tunes, one of the top teams there inside the top 4, with 2 players inside the top 4 together. 24, 22 kills in total, but a lot of assists as well. So some fun stats, but I got to take a look at the overall, and then I'm excited to see what the final selections are from our team as well. Here's a look at the overall. Now, this is interesting, Vivid, for honestly, frankly, a couple reasons. One, Squirtle Squad has put up over 1 million score, which is on the back of Wormy and many others, and they put up over 140 more kills, 146 to be exact, more kills than their opponents. However, I'm getting word the Avengers got the priority selection. They got a hair further in capture percentage on D1 and D2 at the very end of the game, so they will be able to pick whether they want to choose a side or if they want to choose the map to start things off. We don't know what they've picked yet, but Vivid, the Avengers technically on top, therefore having a small advantage.
Yeah, cool to see that they are going to be going with what we would kind of expect them to go with, right? Of course, in the semifinals last weekend, we did have a team kind of go ahead and opt to choose the map outside of the side. Avengers getting the advantage when it comes down to the side. Of course, now Squirtle Squad will be able to choose the map that they are going to prefer. But the Avengers, you have to imagine after the map is selected, they will go ahead and choose defense. Now, the map that they have selected, Squirtle Squad, Threshold.
Yeah, so this is what's happening. You're right. So we got the priority selection team is the Avengers. The Avengers said, hey, listen, we're going to choose side. It's the obvious option. What that means is they get to choose the side, aka the attack or the defense, after the map is chosen. So they've given the map selection to the Squirtle Squad. The Squirtle Squad said, all right, we're taking it to Threshold. A great map, and now the only decision that is remaining that I think the players are still deciding is, which I'm surprised it's even taking a while, is now the team that chose side, the Avengers, they get to choose. Do we want to attack on Threshold or do we want to defend Threshold and frankly go for the title? This is the last game today, no matter what. We don't know which side the teams are on yet, but we are playing Threshold, a very interesting map. Vivid, I want to shout you up because you actually talked about Threshold as one of those maps that we may see in the semifinals when we were talking about the selection. What do you think of this map? Is there a certain advantage that you could see from either side?
Yeah, I actually really like this pick from Squirtle Squad, right? We know that one of their biggest strengths is, of course, Mr. Wormy. He's proven it time and time again. He is very, very good in the vehicles. But one thing that kind of put me on the radar in terms of Mr. Wormy was kind of tuning into some of the past Warfare tournaments and seeing how good he is in a helicopter. And I do believe in Threshold, the attacking side gets one of those very, very early on. So Mr. Wormy, they basically said, hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and pick Threshold. If you want to go ahead and pick defense, then you are telling us that you are fine with having Mr. Wormy in a helicopter from basically the start of the game. So, listen, hey, weigh your options right there. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be an easy pick for the Avengers to go ahead and just say, hey, we want defense, whatever. We don't even care what map it is. Just get us on the defense. But this one actually would make me kind of step back and be like, wait a minute. What, do you want defense?
Genius, man. I'm so glad. This is a great call out from you. You're an expert in this field, man, because it's exactly right. The Syndicate did a really good job with the Squirtle Squad saying, listen, they're going to take defense. 9 times out of 10, you take defense. So because of that, we got to pick a map where the attack has a helicopter. And hopefully the defense doesn't have a helicopter or a jet or something to try to play spoiler. Only map that I could think of that is the case right at the beginning is Threshold. A great shout out. It is not a perfect map for the attack. It's still a map the defense can win, but the attack does have an advantage, and an advantage that plays right into the strengths of the Squirtle Squad. A great breakdown, and I am excited to see what happens as the teams are trying to figure it all out, figure out what they want to do. I saw an emergency call ping for the Avengers to try to decide what they wanted to do because they had priority selection, and I'm excited to see what happens. I am getting word from production that our game is starting, and because of that, I think our signs have been chosen. So as we hop into this game and hop into this map, we get a chance to talk about it. I want to say the Avengers have decided to defend. Squirtle Squad, they're going to have a helicopter.
Oh, gosh. It seems obvious, right? We're like, okay, listen, the Avengers, they just showed us that they're very, very good on the defensive side of things. And we did see how good Mr. Wormy has been in those tank destroyers. And yeah, he is super, super good. But once again, literally got put onto the radar by one of Mr. Wormy's performances in one of those helicopters. He is seriously one of the best in the game. And I'm very, very excited to see what kind of attack the Squirtle Squad can go ahead and pull out here on Threshold. It's going to be crazy. I mean, dude, you got to be feeling a little bit nervous here if you are the Avengers, because they have to be thinking about this, right?
Honestly, I'm kind of just lying and wait to see what happens, because at the end of the day, Wormy is insane. He's putting up the best numbers out of anybody. Again, team feeding him a lot of those kills by allowing him to use all the vehicles. You use the advantage you have. This is a team moment. This is a team moment to play together. All of these teams have talked about this, and this roster in particular, this Squirtle Squad roster, they talked about just about every single scenario you can think of. And maybe this was one of them, man. I'm telling you, I saw 200 plus messages. I saw diagrams. I saw drawings on maps. They had a whole conference call. They've been in here for hours. I'm sure they're thinking about all these different strategies. So we'll see if it all pays off. We're about to jump into the game. The players are getting ready. We've swapped the sides back. We got the Squirtle Squad now again on attack, but on a brand new map with Threshold. And again, a very interesting map. Now, I will say, I'm gonna pull the history card as we load into this game, Vivid. If we think actually all the way back to Delta Force Global League Season 1, Threshold new into the mix at the time. We played it, and there were a couple teams, actually, that were able to hold their opposition on point A. A is not a guarantee. You have to kind of play in this quad position. It is a difficult part of the map to actually take if you're not coordinated enough. The rest of the map comes in stride and it ends. You saw it right there at the beginning of our fly through. It ends on C1 and C2. And it's something also worth noting is that with enough guided missiles, you can actually blow up one of the points. You can actually blow up half of the C sector. So there's a lot on line with Threshold and a lot of variables. The helicopter just being one of the many.
Somebody has defended A in a competition before? How? I feel like that one is, you know, the attackers just spawn so close. It feels like a constant little onslaught, right? You can kind of blow up that first wall there that the defenders really need. And, you know, you can kind of go on the left side of the point up to the bridge and kind of get a very clear angle onto A for the attacking side of things. But as we say that, we're on the threshold, and very, very early on, to nobody's surprise, Mr. Wormy is in the helicopter. And look what he's doing. He's hiding right now. He does not want the defenders to kind of see where he is at, to kind of, you know, invest a lot of time into going to go ahead and destroy him. They want them, Mr. Wormy wants them to kind of forget about it, right? Oh, you know, you're comfortable, you're fine, there's no helicopter, and then boom, he'll start to kind of do those flyovers.
Yeah, and here we go. This is what you're talking about. You can blow up a lot of these walls on the outside, so it is pretty easy to enter. But it is actually funny enough, I was hyping up the squad that actually held on point A at Threshold in the semifinals, and they ended up losing. So I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it anymore. But as we get into point A and we see the hold coming through, not something where, frankly, you're being stopped at the line. It's going to come down to how can you stop them in the courtyard.
Oh,
it's
my
gonna
gosh.
Come down, yeah, just disregard everything I was saying. The defense came in and just got a splatter spree of like 7 people on the edge. Well played.
Got to be the biggest multi-kill we have seen so far in this competition. Incredible stuff right there. And yeah, listen, you know, I'm kind of used to the pub match, right? I'm kind of used to A kind of being already over. And yeah, the defense early on kind of proving me wrong, right? Kind of holding down this building, pushing out of it, actually, making sure the reses are in, and then the vehicles kind of coming in from the side to go ahead and add that support right now. Already 20 tickets have been depleted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you revive people when all the people that would revive you just got splattered by a lav. So, yeah, bummer start there for the attack, but still got plenty of room to work. As we move on our merry way, let's see what Warrock and Co. can do here on the defense. And again, this is make or break, folks. This is game 3 of a best of 3. It's tied up. It doesn't matter how far you get. It doesn't matter how many kills you get. It doesn't matter if you're in a helicopter the entire time, if your name is Wormy. It does not matter. You have to win the game. That means if you're a Squirtle Squad fan, if you're a fan of the Syndicate and everybody else on this roster, you got to capture every single point.
Yeah, I really like how Avengers are playing this right now, right? They kind of have a couple of players playing this bridge right here to kind of control this entire side of the map. And then, of course, the vehicle playing a part as well. So basically, for the attackers right now, they feel like they can only go one way. They are pretty much getting funneled, herded into this entrance onto the A site right now. And when that's kind of happening, I mean, let's be honest, all the util that can kind of come in just to spray bullets, you're going to pick up so many kills if you're on the defense, if all of the attackers are going to one spot on the map right now. This is incredible control, and I've got to say early on, there is being no pressure kind of applied to that vehicle that is kind of sitting under that bridge. That's got to become a priority for the Squirtle Squad, or I do not think they're even going to step a single foot onto A.
Yeah, you were clowning me for talking about the hold on point A.
Ah, dude.
Look
this
at
is
me
crazy.
now. It's honestly impressive. It's not typical, but it is not unheard of. So I'll be curious to see, like you said, what the attackers can do to figure out how to actually make a push as a unit. We got a bunch of engineers on the tank destroyer on the backside of this building, just trying to stay alive for a moment against this lava. And unfortunately, in a moment of dire circumstances, they actually have to back up and allow this vehicle to stay alive for the defensive side, getting a ton of value out of it. So we swing back to the point, though, on the offside. They can't even get around these shipping containers. They're getting held from every single angle. I'm seeing Wormy light up the kill feed, but at the same time, he's also just trying to stay alive and avoid being shot down. So a lot of flares and a lot of evasive maneuvers.
Actually, I think his helicopter is all but done and dusted, right? When we were kind of looking at that tank destroyer over there, he was actually one of the engineers repairing it. So,
oh, shoot.
Mr. Wormy is, yeah, he's not in the air anymore. He's going to be on the ground right now. And I feel like that was going to be a key point for them to actually go ahead and win this map. And that has already been destroyed. So now the Squirtle Squad, yeah, things have to be feeling a little bit dire.
Golly, a great catch from you. I did not notice that. With Wormy out of the skies, the only advantage they had, frankly, on this map, from what we could tell, is completely gone. And point A, I mean, this is nearly impenetrable right now. I don't even think A is... We've lost a single percentage point at any time yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, the defense is looking just super good right now. And again, it's obviously, you know, you've got people on the point that are picking up the straggler attackers that are kind of coming through, but it's all about this bridge control right now for me, right? The vehicle over there just gained so much value. The attackers cannot utilize pretty much 3/4 of the map because of how much control the defense has right now, right? And this is why we're seeing the Avengers, they had priority. They wanted to pick the side. They feel very, very comfortable on the defensive side of things.
The defense is lining them up, knocking them down. The attackers trying to get any value here. Asa just throwing bullets down range through the smoke and getting so many hit markers, but not able to actually knock anybody. A ton of revives means that the defenders were able to stay alive as well.
There it is.
A great job, and finally, vehicle goes down, and the attackers have some semblance of an advantage.
Yeah, that's going to be the combo that we've seen many times before, right? Wormy is going to be in that the tank destroyer over there, and then a part of his squad, I believe it was Zin, that kind of jumped out and hit the AT-4 shot. So they kind of do this coordinated attack all the time, where a lot of damage from the tank destroyer, combine that with that rocket launcher, and usually the vehicles fall pretty fast. But now eyes are going to be set on the flank for the vehicle. Some of these kills are going to be very, very important if the attack is going to have any chance. And yeah, look at that. As soon as that vehicle goes down, as soon as the tank destroyer starts rolling through the back lines, boom, point A has now finally been breached.
Yeah, and Heli's back in the sky as well. We got a second helicopter back into the mix, and Wormy is active yet again. So all of those disadvantages, all of those moments where we thought maybe there's going to be a hold on A, it's looking pretty free now. We got a lot of bodies on the point, and a lot of bodies falling that are in green. So we line them up, and we got a couple of vehicles for support. You win the vehicle war, you oftentimes win the war for the point. Now, we won't have maximum lives going into B, which frankly is a disappointment if you're an attacking fan, because it's not about percentages, it's about getting to the finish line. And we're about 21 lives shy of being full going into point B.
You know, I am kind of curious, right? Because I was trying to pay attention to it, and I never saw it. It could have happened. Just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it happened. But I never saw the helicopter for Mr. Wormy get destroyed in the kill feed. So I'm wondering if he kind of just parked that thing and felt like he could find value elsewhere and then kind of went back to it, or maybe he did fall on the second one. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but yeah, something to kind of think about, because you know, once again, we did see Mr. Wormy was out of it. He's now back in a helicopter, and I feel like for the B sector here, we'll be able to get a lot more value, right? Because on that A sector, there is that giant building that just surrounds the entire point. So actually picking up some aerial kills is going to be kind of tough with that. So keep an eye on the kill feed, because I think Mr. Wormy will start to light it up.
Yeah, we've seen some iconic moments here on Threshold with the helicopter. Wormy being probably half of those highlights in some of the show matches that we've done on this map. He's very comfortable on this map and very comfortable in the heli, like we've talked about a lot. So the question actually becomes, what are the people on the ground going to do? Let's pay attention to them for a little bit. This is always an interesting choke point to try to battle through these tents even on both sides here. A difficult one. B1, again, almost reminds me of D1 on Trainwreck. It's kind of a gimme, but it's also wide out in the open, so it's very easy to retake. It's just extremely difficult to hold. So the attackers should take B1 here shortly. B2 is the one inside the actual almost hangar, if you will, the kind of garage where you see, it looks like, our vehicle operator, Randy Savage, getting mixy. The Syndicate spread out on the ground and into the skies, seeing a ton of value on the points, but Randy's going to make sure he keeps the vehicle alive and going to backtrack as the attackers do take B1 pretty quickly.
Yeah, if there's anything that is symbolic on the Threshold map, I feel like for me, it's just these yellow tents over here. I feel like every single time I play Warfare and I'm on the B sector, it's all about the tents. It's very easy to kind of sneak by on that right side over there where you think that you might be out of bounds, but you're actually not, right? So sometimes I would kind of play Luna, go over there with a respawn beacon and then get behind enemy lines, because actually going through these tents is super, super hard. There's like 17 million head glitches for the defenders to kind of stand behind in those tents. So super hard to push through, and yeah, as you can see, they actually do get control over the 10 and all of those revives. That's going to prove to be very valuable.
Yeah, a ton of revives coming into the tents and on the point. Nearly full control at this point, but vehicles on the side of the defensive side sitting inside. ESG Mannix going to try to get in the back with Titan. Make a play here to hold and then push onto B2 with his team. Oh, and well, unfortunately, smokes are helpful, but they don't block tank shells and anti-infantry rounds from some of these vehicles. That was a bummer, but Tank Destroyer comes in to clean things up, open things up a little bit, and the attackers move to B2 quickly.
Yeah, and as you can see right there, right, the vehicle retreat from B2 as he saw Mr. Wormy kind of point up with that Tank Destroyer right there, gave a lot of respect towards the side of the attackers right now. The Avengers, in my opinion, are kind of seeming to falter a little bit here. It doesn't look like there's a lot of, you know, full team cohesion. They're kind of split between the points in terms of kind of controlling the vehicle game right now. Doesn't look like anybody's kind of syncing up some AT4 shots. That being said, you know, still a long way to go right now because B2 is one heck of a point to go ahead and try to capture. But yeah, B1 weak early.
And again, I mean, C1 and C2 are next, and those will be the final points. And they're quite difficult, honestly, to capture. Yeah. They're not my favorite. They're both indoors. They're both extremely difficult. It takes a lot of coordination that you will definitely get at this level of gameplay. In pubs, holy cow, C1 and C2 can be frustrating. The tug of war is so real in those points. You have that kind of sky bridge that you can walk back and forth between the 2 points, and then you also can play through the low ground. There's a lot of destruction that you can throw maybe on C2 to help things out. Enough guided missiles, you can just blow it to smithereens, but a lot of what ifs. We got to get through B2 first, and this has oftentimes been a sticking point for some of our teams when we play Threshold.
I do believe Mr. Wormy has lost the helicopter right there. I did see him picked up by an AT4 missile in the kill feed, so I think the helicopter has been lost right now, which, you know, he was finding value of it, but, you know, not a lot. So I'm assuming we'll kind of see him transition over to the Tank Destroyer that's still alive for Squirtle Squad, and maybe he'll do better in that than he was kind of doing in the helicopter. We'll kind of see how that pans out right now. But in terms of the Avengers right now, you know, now it looks like a large majority of them has pushed over towards B1. Not only do they have control of the building that's kind of offset of the point, but they also have control of the tent. So they are doing quite well right now.
Yeah, again, you called it out. It was like the Avengers looked like they weren't coordinated at all, but they found their flow very quickly. I mean, Warfare is always an ebb and flow, not only of just momentum, just respawns in general. And it looks like the tide is coming quite strong as they have completely taken back B1 and B2 in full control with less than 100 lives remaining, doing a really good job right now, dwindling down the lives to make Squirtle Squad's job of capturing this entire map really, really difficult. Still a vehicle, or a couple vehicles rather, on the side of the attack, but they're having to play quite timidly because there are a lot of rockets headed their way. You're seeing an Alluru rocket pick up like a triple piece in the kill feed as well, so non-stop action.
Yeah, it's going to be another one of those things where the vehicles are having to play very, very far back. They're not being destroyed, but the Avengers are doing great job at, like, damaging them to the point where they have to kind of back up, right? So they're struggling to kind of get a foothold on the front line of things right now. And as I say that, there's going to be a lot of kills kind of picked up for the attacking side, all seemingly at the same exact time. I would imagine that right now is going to be the Squirtle Squad push that is going to go ahead and decide whether or not they can capture the B sector.
Yeah, they've skipped B1, headed to B2 first. Don't hate the idea. They've got 2 vehicles stacked inside of B2. The third barely alive on the backs of the engineers, doing God's work on the map right now. As per the usual, we've got dedicated engineer squads following or riding on top of the vehicles to keep them alive. A smart and frankly necessary move at this point, but we kill the engineer, which means the vehicle is open for business. But holy cow, Wormy and Aska both picking up a ton of value for it. But with the engineer dead, Easy is able to grab that magnetic bomb explosion and blow that thing to smithereens.
Yeah, I think it was worth it though, because they ended up capturing B2. They still have a vehicle on it that can go ahead and defend it, and now they're going to kind of have some respawn points where they can respawn kind of on B2, because there are some squads in here. There is going to be the vehicle here, and they can kind of flank B1. Right now, the Avengers kind of have to make it their priority to try to reclaim B2 and destroy this vehicle. I think that's going to be the win condition, but as it currently stands, things are starting to look good for Squirtle Squad. The vehicle is low, though.
Dude, all I can think about watching these vehicles just shoot at each other over and over again. Oh, and the defense! Pick up like a quad with AT4 and vehicle combination. All of a sudden, all that momentum just shattered. And it was reminding me of scenes from Star Wars with buzz droids versus R2-D2 fighting on top of the vehicles, because that's what it is. You've got to shoot the buzz droids off the vehicle. You got to shoot the droids off to get the actual vehicle to die. Finally, they're able to do just that.
It was a great coordinated attack right there. The quad that we saw was actually 2 vehicles blowing up at the same exact time that were right next to one another, right? So a lot of value being found right there from the Avengers to go ahead and push with their vehicle and some engineers at the same exact time, and just did so much damage that they don't even know what hit them. So they now definitely have control of the vehicle game. They're going to have 2 vehicles over towards the B2 side of things. I know it shows that B2 is currently in the possession of the attackers, but I really don't feel like that's the case.
Yeah, no, I agree. B2 should fall here pretty quickly, and B1 also fully in control of the defense. The Avengers are looking like they're going to win this thing if we don't see some huge momentum shift here in the final moments. 45 lives and counting, 43 now left for the attack. So we still see green lighting up the kill feed. Feels like a matter of time, but we got a couple more vehicles being called in. That's Wormy and Randy Savage hopping into a tank of their own. Let's see what they can make of it. They got to find great value with this tank as they come flying in here with less than 40 lives.
Yeah, it's very rare, I feel like, we see them kind of jump into anything different than a tank destroyer. So kind of interesting to point that out, that, hey, listen, they're no longer going to be valuing that. They're instead going to go for a tank. Hopefully going to find value from that, because, yeah, like you mentioned, there is a lot of work to be done, right? B1 and B2 are there's like 0% in terms of actually being captured right now for the offense right now.
And I'm seeing Randy light up the kill feed from the tank, but that tank is taking a lot of missiles, and our artillery strike lands on B1. Doesn't get a crazy amount of value, but I think does push off any attackers that could make their way there. No, the artillery strike actually does connect on the defender, so it was an attack artillery strike on B1. Not a lot of value. All of a sudden, vehicles blowing up as well. Tank destroyer getting a crazy amount of value here from the defense. Picking up another. This tank destroyer will not falter, and it picks up a 2-piece and more. Brutal way to go out there for the attack. I think the writing is on the wall.
Yeah, Sean doing a great job there in the tank destroyer, right? That was just a giant vehicle fight, 2v2 right there, and Sean in that tank destroyer ended up surviving with like 10% HP. So vehicles are all but done and dusted for the side of the attack, seemingly, as we actually take a look at one that's inside of it somehow over towards B1 right now. But yeah, with 20 tickets remaining, it's going to be pretty hard for them to make something of this.
Got to get a full cap here as well. Big moves here. Wormy putting up crazy numbers, but Is it going to be enough? Is it too little, too late? B1 not even in control. Look how many defenders have made their way to B1. They're not going to even give this point away.
Ooh.
The Squirtle Squad has to take every single point, and artillery strike on top of B1 is going to open things up. Got to get B1, but you got to get B2 as well. You got to make a move on both. You got to make it right this second. 10 lives remaining, and with a couple magnetic bombs, I can't imagine they're going to see anyone live on the side of the attacking side. The guided missile comes in. It is from the side of the defense, I believe, as it knocks everybody down, but doesn't kill anyone. Blowing up this point, the defense is going to win this, and honestly win it with flying colors. Vivid, unbelievable series, but it is non-stop green in the kill feed. There are only green bodies left on the battlefield, and it is going to be an Avengers victory in Game 3. Holy cow, what a way to finish this thing off. Only 2 lives remaining, and I can't imagine they can get very far with just 2.
Yeah, shout out to the Avengers for this one right now, seemingly stepping into what felt like the lion's den of Threshold, opting to go ahead and defend against the vehicle onslaught
There it is.
we knew would be prevalent from the side of the Squirtle Squad. Did not matter at the end of things. Sector A looked good from the defense. Sector B is where they decided to go ahead and end things. The Avengers are gonna be your Global League Season 3 champions.
Unbelievable job. Immortals A, Trappa, Looney Tunes, Watonos, UTP all put in a fantastic job as squads, but it was the team of the Avengers that was able to clutch it up. Not without trouble, not without a loss. At least someone contested them. It almost couldn't be closer, but in Game 3, that looked like the Avengers we saw in the semifinals. It really wasn't that close. They fully and nearly perfectly executed a fantastic defense, putting every roadblock in the way of what we thought could maybe be, albeit a small one, an advantage for the Squirtle Squad to be on attack on that map. Ended up not paying off.
I mean, the Avengers were definitely the most impressive team, a part of the competition, right? Last weekend, we saw the absolute dominance out of them coming into the finals. I mean, we were kind of talking about the potential for a 2-0, albeit it was very, very close. The attack on Trainwreck did not end up working out, but, you know, again, it was just so close. And then, you know, performing the best, getting that priority pick, going back to the roots, going back to the defensive side of things. They prove once again just how good they are on the defense.
Yeah, and again, this is so close all the way through, but it really wasn't that close in this game. And in Game 3, the Avengers were the best, like you said, and it even started here, right? On point A, we had a lot of question marks around how easy this point is actually to capture. It came down to vehicles, and the vehicles certainly went on the way of the defense. We thought Worm was going to have a ton of advantages in the skies to help out his team down below. The team down below hardly could even step onto the point until they'd already spent over 80 lives. I mean, this is our first time we see A actually dwindle down. We get into double digits in our lives on the very first point. This starts things off in a manner where we really do think the Avengers will win this and win this pretty handedly, which is exactly what happens. Because once we get to B1 and B2, man, B2 was nearly impossible. B1 exchanged hands several times. The battle of that choke point, one that's pretty standard for pubs. But when it comes to customs, this B2 position, if a defense is paying any sort of attention at all, is nearly impossible. They drive vehicles inside. All it takes is a couple Viren magnetic bombs, and all of a sudden, those vehicles are gone. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, super, super tough, right? The only way to either one of those points is through some sort of a chokehold, right? When you take a look at the map as a whole, there's a tunnel over there that the vehicles are kind of flooding through, and then, you know, the middle building there that not a lot of people go through because it's just that straight up tunnel. And then, of course, the synonymous tents that we've kind of talked about. You can go up on top of them, but then trying to push through them, right? You get through the tents, through all of those head glitches, then you kind of come out of the tent, and there's like 17 more head glitches that you got to worry about, and you're not even on the point yet. So definitely a hard, you know, kind of match to be dealt there. Threshold is a different beast, and Squirtle Squad, yeah, I mean, listen, shout out to them, because I really feel like they put a giant question mark kind of going into that match. I was like, oh, listen, actually they can do this. And, you know, their performance was up there. They gave us a very good Game 3, but the Avengers, hey, listen, they got the team name for a reason.
Yeah, the Avengers are your champions of the NA finals here in the Delta Force Global League. What a great matchup. And it all comes down to game 3. And I think as we've got a moment to prepare some of the stats and the scores and figure out some of our individual reward winners as well, I want to kind of think back to game 3 because we did the same thing in the semifinals. And what if we would have chosen something different? I want to ask chat too. We've got a lot of folks in chat hanging out with us all day today. If it gets to game 3, you've got priority selection. Are you picking side? And if you don't, are you picking a map? Let me know in chat what map maybe you should have chosen if you were Squirtle Squad. They didn't get priority selection, barely, by the way. It was like a couple percentage points on Trainwreck. If they would have gotten a little bit further in a couple of those points, Squirtle Squad could have chosen side. Man, it was so close across the board. But let me know which map maybe you would have chosen. Maybe not Threshold, something else. I don't know. But we got our stats ready from game 3. Let's take a look at them. And Vivid, break it down for me. Obviously, we see some solid kills again from Wormy. But talk to me about a couple of the other players on this roster. Foxilia, again, good grief. 66 revives.
Yeah, I mean, once again, right, it looks good for the side of Squirtle Squad. Again, you've got your Slayer kind of doing things towards the top of the leaderboard. I instantly kind of, pan my eyes over to that revive column, kind of go down and make sure that there were an adamant amount of revives coming through. And yeah, I would kind of argue that there definitely was. Obviously, for the Avengers, though, Foxilia, hey, listen, definitely is going to be well-deserved. We'll have to do some math, but I'm pretty sure is definitely going to be well-deserved of that $500 that will be received for the top meta, because every single game, just finding the most revives. And, we can talk about how important those kills are, and racking up the score and everything like that. But Foxilia seemingly just doing it based off revives, always towards the top of the leaderboard for his team. Did great work there for the Avengers there in second place. I know there was a ton of vehicle play going on, a lot of vehicle destruction for InHemp there in second place from the Looney Tunes squad. Every single time, I'm pretty sure, he was kind of like the Avengers unsung hero, right? We kind of talked about how good Mr. Wormy was in all of the vehicles. InHemp over there for the Avengers was kind of the one that was always in the vehicle making plays as well. So those guys were definitely the difference makers for sure, in my opinion, for the Avengers. But as we know, it's a giant team effort. All 20 players on each and every single one of the teams putting up a great performance.
Yeah, and here's a look at the overall, and this is the name of the game in Warfare, man. The overall scores and kills don't tell the full story. It comes down to team chemistry and what can you do when you pick up a lot of those kills. How do you take the capture points? Because that's the win condition. It's not the amount of revives you get. It's not the amount of kills you get. It all comes down to the win con of capturing the points. And you can see the Avengers, they won the overall competition with a little bit less score and quite a bit less kills overall between 3 games. That's well over 100 kills spread between the Squirrel Squad and the Avengers. The Avengers on the low side of that, but they still do win with slightly better team play. Very well done from both squads, though. Really good score lines, and exciting to talk a little bit more about the pricing. And one of the reasons we've been talking about some of the individuals and the teams overall, well, the Avengers, the team wins $6,000 split between everybody. $6,000 to the team Squirtle Squad. You just saw them. They ended up losing, but they still do get $3,000. But our top slayer and top medic, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even need to see the math. Vivid, I knew for a fact our top slayer was going to be Mr. Wormy, walking away with $500. And 100% it was Foxilia at $500 as well for top medic. And Vivid, those numbers weren't even close.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise there, right? If we go ahead and take a look at it, we've got it over here behind the scenes. Mr. Wormy picked up a total of 239 in second place. 135. He was 104 individual kills above the rest of the competition. And then on the side of the medic, Foxilia had a total of 235 revives, and in second place, 166. So some big margins being, displayed there in full effect, just showing us how good those two players are individually. Great to see that they are rewarded for their incredible efforts throughout the day.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Wormy today because, frankly, he picked up like most of the kills on that team. It was kind of insane. Again, well over 100 kills, more than the second highest Slayer on our losing team. But on the winning team, Foxilia picked up a great 235 revives in 3 games. Is an unbelievable average. And we saw Foxilia at the top of every single leaderboard for their team for that reason. The revive's so valuable, and one of the reasons the Avengers were able to win this whole thing. Frankly, I tip my hat to Foxilia for being MVP as well, because you got to remember, they get priority selection because they got a little bit further in that last Trainwreck map. Their attacking rep, they got just a hair further than the Squirtle squad. They were able to do that because they had a couple more lives. Foxilia, MVP, saved so many lives, and because of that, a couple more lives, had priority selection, were able to pick defense, and able to execute on defense as well. What a great day. A couple heroes that we, of course, sung about, and a couple unsung heroes, but the Avengers are your champions of the NA's finals. Vivid, we had a great day. EU finals, NA finals. Any final thoughts from you, man? This was a blast.
Yeah, absolute blast for sure, right? I feel like we got blessed, right, throughout the entirety of the day. I feel like every single one of the games was very, very close. We weren't sure who was going to take it. It was awesome to see over here on NA, right? All the semifinals go down and then kind of lead that into the finals. It was great to see a team earlier on in the day qualify to an international event, right? They're going to be going over to Vietnam. It was great to see in the finals today a map or a match go the distance, right? 3 different games required to go ahead and close this one out. All in all, just had a great time here with the Delta Force gang. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Gojin. Thank you to everybody behind the scenes. And thank you to the competitors for the great matches today. I had a blast. I hope everybody has a good night.
Appreciate you, Vivid. It was a lot of fun casting with you, my man, and I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more very soon, and maybe even overseas. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Folks at home, as per the usual, thanks for tuning in to the broadcast. It was a great day today. Like Vivid said, we got to see everything under the sun that we wanted to see with Warfare. We saw a stomp, a quick 2-0, and we also saw a Game 3 all the way down to the final couple points there on Trainwreck. So really fun stuff across the board. Both regions that competed today did a great job, and really excited to see our top team from EU go on to potentially compete in a LAN event. And of course, the Avengers for crushing it today. Again, probably one of the best teams from a cohesive side, chemistry side I've seen that kind of came together out of nowhere after our commander draft. A really cool format here for the Delta Force Global League Season 3, but that will wrap the Delta Force Global League Season 3. Operations all happened offline because DFI in China, our big LAN competition for operations, was only like several weeks ago at this point, only about a month ago. So it was all Warfare all day for the Delta Force Global League Season 3. So that's it for Season 3. I'm told that Season 4, though, is right around the corner in a couple months. I think you're going to be seeing more from Delta Force from the esports side, not only with our Vietnam LAN that's coming for Warfare in about a month. It's going to be early December. Watch out for all the socials and the announcement of that. But Delta Force Global League Season 4 should be sometime in January, maybe early February. Keep your eyes out on the socials. Keep your eyes out on the Discord. All of those announcements will go out, and I'm sure there's a lot more happening in 2026. If you haven't had a chance to check out all the updates coming as well with new season Asara, definitely check those out. But folks, that's all I've got for you. So as a reminder, that was Vivid. Did a fantastic job. I'm Goj. We had a blast with you, but we couldn't do it without you, the viewer. Thanks for tuning in. I'm sure I'll be seeing you very soon for another Delta Force broadcast. We'll see if that prep pays off for the defensive squad, as they do lose point A fairly quickly.
Mr. Wormy
getting involved. Tank destroyer is active. He's clearing out this whole point. He gets a pretty good value, though. Holy cow. Wormy's on a tear right now and has a lot of firepower. Well played from the attack to back off, though, to stay alive.
Randy Savage that were in that tank destroyer right there as he tries to make a push by him.
Yeah, this is insane. Looks like has
25 tickets remaining, and as I say that,
boom,
they're finally going to get it. Investment from the attackers to go ahead and make sure that he got taken care of. And you know, listen, now that
but Asta has put up an insane amount of kills inside of their vehicle. It has been non-stop action. The attack,
as it currently stands, this is seemingly a longer defense than we saw. The attack side has kind of gotten to a certain point. It's going to be very hard for the defender.
Attack not able to find really anything for it. But this is a huge flank actually from Zin. That's a triple and maybe more if he can.
They had a lot of ground kind of claim, but yeah, I'm not sure. The bridge is still.
It looks like we've got a couple more vehicles coming in on the backside, though. As we dwindle down, our team is fully locked down by the defense. It's going to be all C1 right now. See what they can do. Can it get through one of these roofs maybe, or play the outside of the map? It's going to land on top of C2.
On the Alluru, just kind of throwing rockets in. Oh my gosh, a 4-piece.
Plays from the defense have moved back to D2 to try to make a play. Guided missile comes in, it lands on D1.
Very, very expensive streaks here. That
amount of points comes down to D2, and it comes down to 13, but the Squirtle Squad could technically win.
has ever had to go ahead and pick up, right? D1, D2, constant
green. So we line them up, and we got a couple of vehicles for support. You win the vehicle war, you often
go ahead and decide whether or not they can capture the B sector.
Yeah, the speed feels like a matter of time. So we got a couple more
vehicles. A lot of work to be done, right? B1 and B2 there's like
from the tank, but that tank is taking a lot of missiles, and our artillery strike lands on B1. Doesn't get big moves here. Wormy putting up crazy numbers, but is it going to be enough? Is it too little point away?
Ooh.
The Squirtle Squad has to take every single point in artillery strike and honestly win it with flying colors. Vivid, unbelievable series, but it is non-stop green in the kill feed. There are only green bodies left on the